Well, the way I feel about it with technology in general,
Hmm.
it's like we were saying, it's made it a lot easier, especially from a business aspect. You don't really need to invest a lot of capital to get up and running. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
this uh James itself, it literally runs anywhere I want it to run in any format. And the cost is really initially when I had it, it was just the basic version of Zoom and just
Yeah.
recording it and uploading it, and that's it. And that's where I think a lot of millionaires were made back during the dot-com internet era when it first started up. You
Hmm.
look at your Mark Cuban, um, gosh, there are so many names of very prominent. There some are billionaires, most are millionaires, and because they were able to leverage the technology. And from the way I look at it, AI in general is that next. It will create the next batch of millionaires slash billionaires. I mean, it already has, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. I
And
mean, you're absolutely right. And really, I mean, this thing on the topic of being cost effective. I mean, even the AI itself right now is, everything is there's a free version of it. So
yes,
literally nobody has any excuse really not to be able to hop on this thing and really do quite well. So it's an interesting time to be alive right now.
it is. And I think mm, one of the obstacles, or maybe the misunderstanding that people have with AI in general, is they don't really know how to utilize it.
Hmm.
You see, when I use AI, it's typically just as like Google, like a search engine to answer my questions. When in fact, it's uh there's there's the acronyms and things like that. So large language model I've heard that term thrown around. Is If it's a large language model, does that mean it understands lots of languages? I mean, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, that's a great question and a great point that people really don't understand what it means. I mean, it is really what's called one of the foundational models.
Okay.
It's sort of like this big thinking, creating machine that just processes tons and tons of information and
Okay.
basically just goes out and reads the internet. So
I
it's
see.
sort of it's a situation where it just kind of, and at one time this was even unheard of, like, okay, go out and read the internet and come back
Yeah.
and tell me, let me answer a question. I mean, how ridiculous does that sound to say, I'm just going to go read the internet?
Right.
Well, that's
I
what
mean,
large language models do, and this technology does. It's wrapped up the ability to go out and just read the whole internet. So it has
that's
all the knowledge that's on the internet.
but
All
that's very unfathomable to me, simply because it's not just all the past knowledge that's been input into the internet. There's current knowledge and potential ideas that have not even been truly expressed properly that inside the internet. And so AI can basically read all of it.
uh, all of it and more. So,
Wow.
and so, there's even differences between the types of AI that, let's say, even what you were referencing, like
Hmm.
I'm going to call it old AI or really traditional AI, and the
Hmm.
new AI, and what the regular AI did before what we're uh, sort of that's all that has us engulfed right now is it
Hmm.
would do a lot of predictive analysis,
You're right.
you still chop up a lot of data, a lot of complex data, a lot just, these things were predictive.
Hmm.
And but the AI now, these large language models, they actually create data, from
Create
text,
data.
images. It's a
Okay.
creative. Generative AI is creative, so it
Okay. Okay.
literally creates things almost anew
Okay.
in terms of whatever it produces, the output. Image, text, audio. I mean, that's the way it operates.
Okay, so this type of AI, I've seen and kind of played with this type of AI. So typically, and also too, your average user, they're going to go by brand recognition. So they're going to use AI that they've heard of. But it's amazing because we're still human beings. So we're only going to use things that we have verbally heard from other people. Like other than ChatGPT, I didn't know that there were other types like Grok, like Claude, like Deep Sea, or all these other I guess companies, for lack of a better phrase, or versions of AI. But
Hmm.
with the image generation that we were talking about, I was at a conference about a year or so ago, and so in our industry, we we're learning how to we can't use it depend upon it in the sake of because inputting personal data and all that stuff, we can't do that. But we can do
Yes.
it for like a quick search of, I've got this type of situation, what fits this criteria, and it will spit that out. Or if I needed to break down scenarios. It can do break down scenarios. And so with it, they showed us an AI hallucination. And they talked
Mhm.
about AI hallucinations.
That's a good
So
thing that they talked about it.
yes, yes, yes. Because again, your average person, they're just going to assume they did this. This is the answer. This is the right way. And I've noticed in Copilot, they've got disclaimers saying, "Hey, this you have to double check your work. You can't just go by what we're saying." And so,
Yes.
human wise, we
Hmm.
have to be able to understand like this is more of in common parlance, a walking stick. It's not your legs. It's not your body. It's your walking stick to help you
Yeah,
walk.
exactly. I mean, exactly. So uh, 2 points you touched on, and I want to hit really quickly because in the event that it doesn't come up, and one was that you talked about putting information in and having it spit some things out. One of the most important things that I know I can say to you right now is don't put any personal data
Absolutely not.
into these models. Just
Right.
don't put any personal data in, anything that's sensitive. Uh, and now, actually moving ahead, there are systems that you can use closed systems, and we may be able to talk about some of that, or systems that that are proprietary that you know that the data is closed, and there are some free ones. Well, with free ones, there's different levels of security on those, but
hmm hmm
but uh,
So
but
basically, you have
generally
to pay
speaking,
for it, right?
yeah, generally speaking, don't
Yeah.
put any personal data in there because once it's gone, it's out there. You don't know where it goes. Frankly, it kind of goes
Right.
into the ether, so to speak. That's my term. So just don't do that. But the other point that you were actually making too about hallucinations, it not only will hallucinate, which means it'll lie to you.
hmm
All of them still have a component of being able to or doing that, and that is
Right.
making up things, but not
Right.
just making it up, making things up to the point that is very convincing
Yes.
that
Yes.
and emphatic about the way it goes about doing it.
Yes.
So one of the points I certainly want to make, and there are a couple things that I just kind of we've not talked about. We're just kind of jumping into the conversation here, uh, but there are just certain points I always like to make that that are very important. This sort of, I'll say foundational. We're talking about foundation models, but a couple of things that are foundational. One of them is don't ever put any personal data in into these models that that the average person is using. But the other one is don't give up your judgment to these things. And so,
Discernment.
uh, because one of the issues that's coming up is whether or not you'll become too reliant on these. How much do you critically think about the information that you get?
Right.
Uh, are you kind of testing it to see in some kind of way if does this really make sense? Because
Right.
when it gives you an answer, a lot of these models are set up to please you, to give
Oh.
you what you want. I mean, literally,
Oh.
they're and it'll give you an answer to something, and if you don't know that it could potentially be wrong, you'll use it, which happens a lot. And there are a lot
Right.
of different segments where this happens. Students use it in
Yeah.
schools, and it puts bad information out. Lawyers are being dinged a lot now
Yes.
for using it and coming back with cases that are made up. And that's because these models will hallucinate
Hmm.
and make up the information and
Hmm.
be convincing with it and give you citations to what's non-existent. And
So
they
this.
haven't quite figured out exactly why it does that.
Mm,
Some do it less than others. They've got tests that they use, but they all at this point, for the most part, have some level of hallucinations that they will
hmm.
engage in. And I test these things often, and I find out that information that looks very convincing to me
Hmm.
comes back, this is not true. And so you can ask it, wait a minute, if you know about it, or even if you don't know, you can say, now, is this really true? Or is there something else I should be looking at? You can ask a question that simple, even if you have
Wow.
any doubt about it, and it'll tell you, it'll tell you, well, you know what, there is another version of this. And on a couple of occasions, I've said to it, and this was kind of funny, uh, I've said to it, wait a minute, this is wrong. Now, why did you give this to me? And it'll say, "Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I didn't intend to do that. I thought that's what you were looking for." And then that's what I would come back, and I would come back and say, "Why did you give this to me?" It would say, "Well, I thought this is what you wanted. This is typically how I answer this question,
Mm,
and I'm just really sorry. You are correct. That's not the right information." So it goes down a litany of things, and so I had to laugh the first time that happened to me when I said, "Wait a minute, this is wrong."
right.
And I was asking it for it was probably 2023. I was getting ready to speak at a conference, believe it or not,
Hmm.
and and I asked it about the parameters for let's see, I think it was about some parameters for this organization called there was an organization that put out what's called NIST standards. These are sort of national standards and things that are used. And it gave me these five categories of information, and they were just totally wrong.
Mm.
And if I didn't have some knowledge or
What the truth was.
information, that yeah, I would have had a big slide putting it up on the screen saying, these are these standards that you should be used. And it was about standards for use in AI. And so
Hmm.
it gave there's this totally
About
wrong
itself?
information. I'm sorry.
Are the standards about itself?
Yeah, well, it was about how to use AI. And so, yes, it was about itself. I hadn't thought about it that way, but it
That's
was
that's
about,
very deceiving then.
yeah, it was very deceiving. And so, and the response when it came back and said, "My bad," I like, wait a minute.
My
First of all,
bad.
what do you know about my bad? But I guess it knows
Where'd you learn that
everything.
expression from?
Yeah.
You know,
That's the
it's
first thing that
funny.
made me laugh.
It's funny that interaction right there, it's a lot like a child that has a wealth of knowledge, you
Hmm.
know. And so it does make you pause for a second because humanity has, for a time in the season, always kind of had this forward, future looking point of view. I mean, we are this close to living in a movie like Blade Runner or um, Ghost in the Shell or Uh, before I get to these other two, I'm trying to think of any type of futuristic type of movie sci-fi movie you've seen. But it's all this science fiction type stuff where you're sending money just through your phone or your device and you don't pull out cash, you just send it to somebody. You know,
Mhm.
you're talking on screen like the Jetsons to somebody. You know, you've got these amazing flying cars. We're this close to that, but we're also really close to some very familiar movies here recently. One of the most impactful movies prior to us ending into the 2000 era came out
Mhm.
in 1999, if I am not mistaken, I can be. The Matrix. We're
Yes,
close
yes,
to
that was
that
one
type
that
of
I thought
movie.
of as you were talking. It was The Matrix, which is frankly was a favorite of mine for a long time
Is it
because of all the things that it talked about in the series. The Matrix was one. The Terminator is another one in that
Terminator?
series.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
and uh, and the problem with a lot of these movies is that it has sort of a dystopian or sort of
Hmm.
a bad ending type of thing. And so
Right.
much of culture and many people, that's the impression that people get
Right.
is that like in you know the Terminator is Skynet. It was gonna everything's
It's
gonna all of a
AI.
sudden take over and do things.
Hmm.
There was a movie that Will Smith was in, I, Robot,
I,
which is
Robot.
another
Yeah.
movie that I liked when it came out, um, about robots taking over and things
Right.
like that. So that's the impression that a lot of people get, and certainly uh, it's like anything else. There's tremendous good that can be done, but there's also harm that can be done as well. And so you have to, at some point in time, you have to have some type of guardrails or
Yes.
and I say guardrails and not guardrails that are intended to stifle
No.
innovation, but enough to have some accountability, some
Yes.
transparency,
Yes.
to build trust in
Yes.
people when you're using these systems. So there has to be some of that.
Yes.
And I know that back in just before when COVID hit, this was like 2019. I had a podcast, James, as much as I love you, I'd like to tell you this is not the first podcast I've been on.
Of course. Of course.
But anyway, and I started this podcast. It was entitled Encode IoT,
Uh-huh.
and the purpose of it was, and I still got some episodes that ran, some that didn't run because it was COVID was hitting, and so it kind
Right.
of knocked a lot of things out. But it was actually a good time to do a podcast. I didn't take total advantage of that. Um, but the purpose of that podcast, because I could see all these things coming.
Yes.
I've been working in tech for a long time, or operating in tech
Yes.
for a long
About how
time.
long now? How long?
Well, I'll literally give you, how about 40 years?
Wow. Okay.
And, I'll give you a reference point of something that I did to start this off. But the point I was going to make about the going into that direction is that the purpose of the podcast was to educate people specifically about AI that was coming, about these different forms of AI, talking about
Hmm.
um, AGI, artificial general intelligence, and talking about blockchain at the time.
Yes.
A lot of technology that was on the move coming. And that was, I
Right.
guess that's about 6 years, 2019, yeah, about 6, 7 years ago.
Hmm.
And for my first episode, I had a friend of mine who was in tech to interview me. I asked him he had a podcast that he was starting. This was when podcasts were just starting. And as I recall, on the episode itself, we were talking about, we need to do a podcast on podcasts because, all these things, they're putting these things in cars right now.
Right.
They're putting where you can be in your car. People spend so much time in their cars.
Right.
All the car companies now are beginning to put these systems in their cars so that people can listen to podcasts.
Right.
And so if you think back, there was a phase around that time, 2019, that these nice screens were popping up in people's cars.
Very, very big
And
screens. Yep.
yeah, very big screens in cars. And there were a lot of podcasts. So there weren't nearly as many podcasters out there
Right.
then as they are now. And the numbers
Right.
continually growing on that.
And
So,
the
but
reason
you
why
talk,
podcasts are going to be around for a long time is because the form of media of the podcast is so easily to absorb, whether
hmm
you're riding in a car, walking on the street. If you want to watch it visually, you can. It is the most easiest form of consumption there is,
yeah,
and it can be
yeah,
on any topic that you want. So that's why podcasts are, they're not, it's not going anywhere. And
right.
as these podcasters get more and more brand endorsements, they're if they know how to steward the money well, they're going to be around a long time. But their competition is going to be AI,
Yes.
artificially created content.
Well, James, you're right. And man, look, there are so many, and we talked about, how do we want this conversation to flow? And it's flowing. And you've touched on so many topics now that just kind of turn right back into getting on the subject of AI, that it's like, okay, you secretly planned this because you couldn't plan it this well on things. But the point about AI and podcasts now is that back when I was doing this podcast, which was, as I said, about 6 years, 7 years ago, you have to buy a lot of equipment. And we were talking
That's
about that a
right.
little bit this morning.
That's
You'd have
right.
to buy these expensive microphones
Yep.
and all this equipment, the headsets, and it's still nice to have that equipment to uh, to help you in your podcast. But literally today, you don't need any of that. You
Nope.
can do a podcast just from uh, putting in information and taking it and just letting it build itself, just telling it what you want it to
That's
do,
amazing. That's scary.
and it'll generate a podcast.
Wow.
One of my favorite tools is that will do this, literally do this, and and there is a free version, so you can go out and test it. It's called Notebook LM. Now
Notebook LM.
that's a tool that Google makes,
Okay.
and man, it's my go-to tool in a lot of areas because if there's anything that you want to understand,
Hmm.
you can literally put it in that and have it to explain it to you.
Wow.
Just literally, and it's got various ways in which to do that. And just go to Notebook. If you've got a Google account, frankly,
Hmm.
you already have access to it. So you don't,
So it's using Gemini?
it's using, yeah, well, Google uses Gemini,
Hmm.
and it's sort of it's all built into what you do. It doesn't even have the Gemini is not even a step comes up,
Okay.
but underlying it is their large language model.
Hmm.
And but I was going to say that this thing, and I have something I was going to show you on it. Let me see if I have it over here.
Sure.
Um, well, anyway, I'll point you. Well, if you've got a Google account, you can find. Just type
Yeah,
in
I can find it.
Notebook
Notebook
LM
LM.
or Google.notebook LM, and it'll come up.
And
And
you know,
uh, and
sorry.
it will literally turn let's say if you have a paper that you give me an example of something that you may have some curiosity about. You just tell me what it is, just the topic, and I'll tell you what it'll
AI
do.
agent.
Okay, AI agents, man, that's a great topic. What you do is you can find the file, or you can have a link to a website or a YouTube page or whatever source of information you choose. You
Right.
simply download the file or put
Right.
in the link. It'll just say
Hmm.
here, put the link here.
Hmm.
Upload that link to Notebook LM,
Uh-huh.
and there are several things you can do with it at that point. first of all, it'll
Hmm.
give you a summary of what it is that you just put in about
Right.
30 seconds.
Right.
Um, and then it will, you can ask it questions just like you would in Chat GTP,
Right.
you can also ask it to generate a podcast for you.
Wow.
And what it does is it has this version has two people talking. It'll process the information. It takes about 5 minutes or so for it to process. Okay, like 5 minutes to create
Hmm.
a podcast. And
Hmm.
then it will
That's
generate a
insane.
conversation between two people that may be either 5 to 12 minutes long. There's a couple of lengths that you can do one, or maybe even 15 minutes long, a podcast that breaks it down, breaks the topic
Wow.
down on AI agents. And if you
Right.
want to do that, you can do that for this
Wow.
and let it explain to you what AI agents do. And
Right.
there's a male voice and a female voice, professional podcasters, like almost like news reporters or someone giving a report.
Right. And you can
And
usually
they will,
typically tell the content's fake because it just seems a little too, there's something that's just a little off. And that's where the
mhm.
discernment is important to have. And at this time, we're able to discern. My concern is you can overlay me as that podcaster onto it, and that's where the issue is going to end up being. But that's
Okay,
also when you upload, you have to state, is this AI altered content? You know.
that's true. That's true. But this information is actually coming from the source that you put in it.
Hmm.
And so it's not the hallucination is not as big an issue with something like that where you know what the
Right.
source is, you know what
Right.
the information is, and it's just there explaining to you what you have in front of you.
Hmm.
So the issue using this particular, and this is one of the now sort of one of the tools that I certainly would recommend people use because
Right. Yeah.
frankly, to keep down hallucinations, what what Notebook LM does is that it uses the sources,
That you
essentially
input.
only the sources that you put in.
Yeah.
So it's going
Okay.
to tend to hallucinate a lot less and not make up things because the information is coming from a known source for the most part on that. But the point I was making about the podcast was simply it's generate a conversation
Yes.
that that's pretty reliable. I wouldn't try to put a percentage on these because I don't
Yeah.
have like test numbers in front of me, but Notebook LM would have a higher percentage of things being hallucinated than most others because
Because
of the
you're
information.
inputting the
You know
information.
the source and this is what you're working with, and it's
Hmm.
likely that you'll have some idea that it may be even not correct if
Hmm.
because I've had situations where it's missed some things when I asked it to
Right.
go and pull some things out, or it may pronounce a word or two that's different in the podcast, and we don't want to get bogged down. I won't get bogged down with that because there's a lot about Notebook LM that I can tell you that it'll do. But
Maybe
there's a
that's for
really
another time.
yeah, maybe so.
Maybe
But one of the things that you can
devoted just to
also,
that. Yeah.
yeah, one of the things you can also do with it is that you can interact with it on the
Really?
podcast as it's
Oh,
going
wow.
like live. You can ask it
Wow.
questions. I mean, it's like, so that's a pretty amazing tool when you can
Hmm.
interact and say, well, look, I've got a question about that. It's going
Yeah.
along, explaining things to you, and then you can just interject and then it'll say, "Well, guess what? We've got somebody here that's asking us a question about, how long have AI agents been around and how effective are they? So, what do you think about that?" And then she'll give an answer based on the source that you put in there, and then he'll respond, and then they'll get back to the old whole summary on
Wow.
that.
Wow.
So that's a pretty
Interesting.
interesting tool. Since I had no idea that our conversation would take me back to my conversation about podcasts about 7 years ago, to be talking about podcasts now. And as I think about it, the evolution of podcasts has gone even further than I thought at that time. I never
Yes.
thought that you could create a podcast without having podcast
With just
equipment.
information
Yeah, with just the information. So things really changed over time, and the speed at which they change is really
going faster.
another point that will probably come up more as we continue to talk about things.
Well, and that's why if you look at Alabama in general, the state of Alabama, like the physical state, Alabama has so much vacant raw land, right?
Hmm.
Where we have seen an influx of capital, and from my point of view, we're going to continue to see an influx of capital, especially if we have resources, natural resources. And because we are open to nuclear technology, we're probably going to see more and more data centers entering into Alabama, which is going to drive the power cost up.
Yes, absolutely. You're right. There are already companies that have committed data centers here. Even
Yep,
in the Montgomery area has one
yep,
coming up. Meta is building some things here.
right,
So yes, that's only going to proliferate significantly. I mean,
yep,
so we're at a phase here where we're everybody is hearing about AI now, and I'm
right.
sort of if I can kind of sort of give a big picture view of a couple of things here.
Sure, of
So
course.
we're at a phase now, since we're talking about data centers and all the proliferation and growth of those, where we're sort of people are saying, well, this is the Wild Wild West, and it really is the Wild Wild West in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
But we're sort of at the end of the beginning of that Wild Wild West, because this has been around for a while and it's been
Oh
building for a
yeah.
while.
Oh yeah.
So we're at a phase now where people are becoming aware of it, and people are building these different models and they're popping up left and right. And so, but we're in a phase now where the infrastructure is in the process of being built.
Hmm.
It's it's growing, and certainly data centers are a big part of that, and all around
Yes.
the all around the globe, frankly. And Elon Musk is talking about putting data
In
centers in
space.
space.
Yep.
So
Yep.
so this is all a part of that evolution of how things are going, and it's going very fast. So you're absolutely right. Because of all the natural resources that Alabama has, uh, there's going to be, we're going to be as a state, a lot more attractive to industries, and we have a large, we have a good tech, uh, uh,
Huntsville.
yeah, just a lot of tech. Um, what was the word? Well, the ecosystem for tech. I mean,
Yes.
in this area,
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
Montgomery area, Birmingham, certainly
Yeah.
Huntsville has been on the
Yeah.
map a long time, with things, even Mobile. So the major areas are, we are blessed with being tech hubs, and have been so
For decades.
for right, and it's just not been generally well known, except for
That's right.
Huntsville. It's not been generally well known, but it is now. And if you let me go back to a point. I said I want to give you a data point on this 1986.
Okay. Okay.
But as I finish, so let me just say that that's where we are as far as the progress and progression of things, sort of in the middle of the infrastructure being built out. And so
Hmm.
people are looking to get their return also on this new wave of things that are coming. So we can continue that point a little later. But going back now, you sort of made me think about the data point of this when I said I've been in this for 40 years
Mm.
doing this. Back in 1986, and so it was literally 40 years ago that I started a company, incorporated a company that was designed to do search, and also designed to do answer questions for people,
Oh,
much like
your search engine.
ChatGPT does, or
Yeah.
the search engines do. But it was also it was a search engine. And I didn't call it a search engine, but at that time, but it was to do search, and then also answer questions much like, Claude or ChatGTP would do. You literally put in a question and get answers. I mean, and I
Hmm.
had done some work with before the FCC, and part of one of the things that I saw evolving, what I was trying to do at that time in 1986, now 40, and this is in Montgomery, so
Hmm.
incorporated it with the Secretary of State, so all the records are there.
Right.
Um, Protected the name with the
Trademark.
Patent and Trademarks Office, so I had the little circle all on the information, all of that's still there.
Hmm.
But I saw all of this coming,
Yeah.
this wave of technology and data and information coming, and so my idea was to build a company uh, and uh, and take advantage of all of the fact that everybody's going to want this one day,
Yes.
and so I set out to build it, and but I ran into a few little obstacles. I ran the company for a couple of years. The way I advertised, because at that time in the
Oh,
80s, there was no internet to search on, to advertise on.
right.
I
Right. It
mean, it was
wasn't until
like
about 96 when the internet really
it
started
was,
to come
yeah,
around.
yeah. And so, and during that time, um, I had to advertise in the yellow pages.
Yes.
I should have pulled out I think I have a copy here that I kept a copy of the yellow page that I advertised in. So,
That's
so
so
it
cool.
is, it's got 1980, 1986, 87, and, it was called the MFAX Corporation. Get info. The number I had was called Get Info. You could, and it was 834 info was the number. I think
Oh, wow.
834 for something. I don't know what the number was, but it was just sort of the beginnings of technology evolving, data being the information of choice. It was sort of, you could see that there was going to be a change taking place in this space. I had a couple of other problems too when
Mm.
with trying to do this. The first one was that only at that time, the government, there were some other companies had access to the information, like
Ah,
universities
yeah.
had access to it. There were restrictions on public
Institutions.
use
Yeah.
of the internet at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't actually, I was aware of some of it, wasn't aware of all of it, but I did find out after I got in, but I still would have tried to get in at that point. Now, this is 12 years before Google was founded. Google was
Yes.
founded around 1999 or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but it was about 12 years before Google was founded. And so there were all these barriers to entry at that
Hmm.
point. And
Hmm.
but one of the funniest ones that learned later that I was having trouble getting people to buy the service. It was a subscription service. And it was like,
Right.
okay, join
Ah,
this service
that
and
would be a
you can get your
reoccurring revenue stream.
information. I'll have it to you in 24 to 40 to 36 hours is what I said.
Wow.
I could actually get it faster than that, but I didn't think anybody would believe me that I could answer any questions, get you access to any information that fast. And that turned out to be one of my Achilles heels, in addition to all the other barriers, was
You were
that
too
people
early.
were having trouble believing that what is this you're talking about? This is a
Yeah.
scam.
You were too
So
early.
so
Yep.
it was
Yep.
like way, way too early. And even the big companies were trying to figure out how they were going to deal with this internet because they could see it at some point it was going to be commercialized. And at that time, though, the big company I was dealing with, who I can't think of was, I was trying to get a contract with them. Oh, it's a really large company. They're still around. That you could buy service. They were beginning to figure out how to sell internet time on the internet with their company. I've still got the
Almost like
little,
AOL.
yeah, it was but
Almost like
it
AOL in
was
the
not an
same.
AOL. I don't think AOL was around then, but
Yeah.
I wish I could think of the name of it. But anyway,
Netscape.
no, no, not like those. Those are like search engine type companies and browser type companies.
Yeah.
This
Or
was
Net
these were
Zero,
it
I
was
think. Yeah.
like me.
It's
It
an
was one of
ISP, right?
say it again.
It wasn't
Say it
like an
again.
ISP.
No, it wasn't. They had been a big news organization that had been around for a long time, and I'll give it.
Hmm.
Look, I'll give you the information on it later. But they hadn't quite figured out how to do it either. And so what I found, I started doing surveys from people that that were saying they would say, "Oh, somebody." Now there were a few people who just they couldn't get enough of it because they were
Right.
saying, "Wow, I like." There was one real estate lady
Of
that
course.
she just said, "Oh,
Of
this is
course.
great. This is I can't believe this. I can't." She used it tremendously.
Of course.
To the information that I could get access to, but people simply did not believe that you could have access to information almost instantly. And so, and that was the big response I got on the surveys that
Right.
people said, "Nah, I don't, nah, not for me."
Mm,
So, and I
mm,
had one banker who allowed me to come do a presentation at, in the boardroom of one of the banks there. And it was
mhm,
called Central Bank that time.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
that he said, "Look, yeah, this sounds like a great idea. Not anything I want to get involved in yet, I don't think, but here, come on down and you can use my conference room, the conference room,
mhm.
and do your presentation. And, I'll invite a few folks, you invite some folks."
Okay.
And did the presentation. And I think I had one person that said, "Okay, I'll sign up." But anyway, so my idea was to really get this big subscription base and probably at some point in time, exit from that, uh,
Right.
and and um, and just kind of just kind of jump on board, or just kind of be ahead of the curve. But 1986 was the year that I kind of started with that. That's my official start date when I say 40 years. And look, I'm celebrating a 40-year anniversary right now. There's a long way around on that story, but that was interesting. You're having me to think back a little bit on some things here
Well,
about getting started.
for me, technology has been in my blood
Okay.
since I was born. And the reason why is because my dad, really, my dad
Okay.
is why. So, my dad was born in Trenton, New Jersey.
Hmm.
Uh, say when he was about 17, 18, he just decided I want to do my own thing. So he joined the Air Force. Okay. So when he joined the Air Force, obviously he saw the world. He was working in supply originally. And what that eventually led to was him being involved in computers. So he was actually working on mainframes and he worked out at Gunner. He worked in the what you may have heard of it, the block building.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
so randomly he would get, and he had, it was him and just one other guy. What a heck of an efficiency ratio. He would randomly get a call in the middle of the night. Hawk, we need you in somewhere in Asia, because Asia was his territory. So he'd get on a plane, fly out, fix the mainframe, fly back. And that eventually
Mm.
led to TDY all over the place. So in 1986 or in 1987, he was stationed at Osan Air Force Base in Korea, and that's where I spent about a year, was over there. But for me, technology has always been in my blood, and that's why inherently, innately, I've always had an affinity for it. And when I was, so Dad was trying to groom me to follow him, because by the time I was getting out of high school, he had already retired from the military, was working on the civilian side of things. So he said, "Son, I want you to go study information systems." So my freshman year of college at Hampton Sydney, I'm taking Visual C++,
Okay. Okay. You were
and
into it, man. Yeah.
well, I wish I had stuck into it because after I took that one class, I was like, I don't think this is for me.
Okay.
So when I transferred to Auburn in 99, my I my my plan and my track was I want to get out of college in 4 years. I don't want to, it's a 4 year degree. I want to be out in 4 years. So I swapped majors into business administration. I don't know what business administration is. I know what it is now. I didn't know then, but it had enough credits for me to get out within 4 years. And so even then, before I got out of college, Dad was like, "Hey, why don't you go into the Air Force?" You know, put your 10, 20 years in the Air Force and you'll have that
Mhm.
pension retirement.
Mhm.
And, go the route of OCS, become an officer. I took the test and stuff. The reason I did not want to go into the Air Force is because I didn't want to go through basic training.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But in
Okay.
spite of all those things, ending up in banking and whatnot, I'm pretty much their go-to resident IT guy
Okay.
because I still just have a natural affinity for technology, even to this day. So
Mhm.
there's never been a point in time where technology hasn't had some form of attraction for me. And so, you know, it's Dad would be amazed
Man, that's true.
at the
That's
leaps of the
amazing.
technology.
Yeah, that's amazing that he touched all that. And once you touch it, you kind of know that it's where it's going, that it's going to be the engine that fuels a whole lot of things. And that he came out to Gunner, which is really one of the reasons that this area is such a tech-rich area that's not,
Yes, it
for
had to
whatever
be.
reason, not well known. Because actually, annually the Air Force still puts on a conference, technology conference, one of the Air Force's largest conferences that they do around the country,
Is it
and
still called the AFITC?
it's called DFAITC right now.
Okay.
So they added a D to it. I think the D is for digital, I believe, but it's DAD. They call it DFIDIC,
Hmm.
is what it does now.
Yeah.
And we have,
Yeah.
and I participate in that, as some oftentimes over the years have been participating in that as a representative for the mayor's office, going back
Hmm.
a number of years. Worked with I think three mayors with a non-paying volunteer job of being sort of the liaison for the Air Force.
Wow.
And through
Even
that,
currently now?
yes, even currently now, I met the CEO of Google Private Sector was here. Her name is Karen DeHutt. She
Uh-huh.
was here back in this past August. That conference
Okay.
is generally about August. And so
August, yeah,
through,
that's right.
through that conference, this is one thing I'll say for like entrepreneurs, sometimes you have to be a little inventive and creative about how you go about doing things. I just
Always,
sort of
yeah.
totally volunteered
Uh-huh.
with that job. And I just kind of kept it. I said, I'm going to keep this job. There's actually a TV interview of me back in like 2001 or two, talking about technology and I can't think of the reporter's name, but the conference was coming. No, we were the general at that time wanted to spread the word about technology as well. General Lance Lord was his name,
Hmm.
and he was sort of the uh, uh, over Maxwell, and but they always wanted the troops to have the good community relationships, and he often wanted to do things with the community,
Hmm.
and so one of the things he did was partner with the city to do focus days. They called them focus days where people would learn about computers and technology and things like that. And so at that conference, uh, a lot of the CEOs and vice presidents, all the senior people of these companies would come to Montgomery and still do for that conference. And so I just volunteered to just be the representative. And so I would always be one that would meet and spend time with these people. Got to meet Michael Dell was one of the people I met early.
That's so
Um,
cool.
the owner of at Microsoft. He was CEO, owns the the LA team out there. Why can't I think of his name?
Sundar,
Steve
Steve
Ballmer. That's
Ballmer.
who it is.
Still
Steve
Ballmer.
Ballmer.
Yeah,
Met
yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah. LA
Came
Clippers
through.
owner.
Yeah, the Jim Whitehurst, who sold led the sale of White Hat to IBM for like $41 billion,
Yeah,
$47
yeah,
billion
White
or
Hat.
something like that.
Yeah.
And he let's see. Yeah, this was right after COVID when he was here. It was the first conference. It was the first meeting after he had sold White Hat to IBM that he came and did a keynote speech here
Hmm.
on it. So we just had a whole host of them. The president of HP was here. She was, I
Packard,
think,
yeah.
the first female to head up HP. I'll think of her name in a minute. But anyway, so Montgomery's kind of been a really big hub for technology that's still growing.
Hmm.
And we've had, like I said, a good host of people coming through here and still do. But one of the points I wanted to make about your dad that talked about two other major CEOs that became household names that people didn't know, that they started with government contracts, was Larry Ellison,
Mm.
and
Hmm.
was out
Oracle.
at Gunner, doing
Really?
contracts. Yes, went got contracts, and all of this is some of this I guess is public information. It is public information. I know it's public information
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
had contracts um, out there. Otherwise, I wouldn't know about it. But anyway,
Right, right, right.
um, and Bill Gates, was
Really?
out there. They started their careers doing government contracting out at Gunner, and
Wow.
so.
Didn't know that.
So yeah, that's I'm not many people know that, but that reminded me of the fact that a lot of big names have just kind of come through here. Now they weren't big names at the time; they
Of
were
course
out
not. Yeah.
working their trying to get things done.
Right.
But anyway, they were a part of that, and so Montgomery has had a really rich technology uh, history as a result of things that happened out at Gunner. And your dad was one of the first out there with that. That was really interesting information to find out too. So I can add
Yeah.
that to the little repertoire of tidbits that I know about things that happened out at Gunner
So he
coming
was
up.
always an advocate for his son. It's a dead language. People don't really know it a lot, but if you know this language, you can pretty much write yourself a paycheck, and that's COBOL. He's
Hmm.
right, because a lot of those mainframes, they're still running on COBOL.
Yeah, they are. They are. And I have to say that my background was not technology either. I was just a technology wannabe all the time. I mean, I look, I'm an old Trekkie, the old school
Okay,
Trekkie, so
okay,
Star
okay,
Trek.
okay,
So
okay.
I go
That's where
back
it
to
came
that,
from.
and
Yeah,
so I've just always had a fascination with technology because I always felt that technology was the engine that was going to move the future, and it turns
absolutely.
out that's the way it was. And so I began to study it and uh, and correlate it with business. After getting a law degree, I went back and got an MBA, and primarily I'm just doing consulting now, working on a
Right.
second MBA though that with a focus on technology.
Yes.
I went to ASU, proud
Okay.
graduate of ASU, Alabama State, and
So
got my
you know Mr. Delbert Madison then.
I do, and not very well, but I do know Mr. Madison though. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know he's with us.
yeah. Okay. Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's good
Yes.
to hear.
Yes, he's been with us since '07.
Okay, all right. Yes, as I said, I don't know him well, but I know who he is.
Okay. I have
And
to
then
introduce you
I
to him.
say again. Okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
love to
Well,
see
yeah,
him. Yeah,
let's have lunch. Let's do that.
sure. Okay, look, that's a great idea. Yeah, we've been talking about having lunch anyway, so we hadn't been able to
Yeah.
get schedules together. But yeah, but that's great. That's cool. And now I'm sort of working. I'm back. I have a craving for knowledge. I've been gotten some training. I went through NVIDIA's Deep Learning Institute and learned about some things, and then enrolled at Troy right now,
Mm.
and information systems, but with the focus on artificial intelligence.
Yes,
And
yes.
they have a great program. They're a research center that's headed up by Dr. James Locke, who is really renowned in AI, who
Mm.
was the person that started a whole lot of this. And I've
Gotcha.
learned a lot in his courses about how things run. And
Okay.
so yeah, I've sort of had a hankering for technology for a long time, going back to the days of Star Trek
Yeah.
on the Enterprise, on a
Yes.
land where no man
Yes.
has been before. So,
That's
um,
where we are. We're on the cusp of that now.
yeah.
There was a Star Trek movie. Um, I think it was more centered in the next generation than it was the first one, in which
Hmm.
they actually try not Star Trek, not the fourth Star Trek movie, but it was the Star Trek movie in which they travel back into time, and this is where they make first contact with the aliens because they'd gotten the technology to the point where they can actually go into space, and that's when I think it's the Romulans actually interact with them, and that genesis it into. Do you remember that movie, that Star Trek movie?
I think I do.
I can't remember the name of it,
There
but I
was one
remember.
now. There was one. So when you mentioned the Romulans, there were a lot of episodes where they were doing things. And I remember them going back in time on one of the earlier episodes too. So,
Yes.
but I didn't remember the movie, one of the movies where they went back in time. That was one of the movies.
Yes, it's one of the movies. It's one of the
Okay.
movies. Now, it's not Star Trek 4. I know it's not Star Trek
Okay,
4.
because I
Or
found
not,
now I like I've tracked I still like some of
yeah.
the top the
The
next
the
generations.
older the older ones from 1 through The Undiscovered Country. Isn't it?
Okay.
I think it was called either The Undiscovered Country or The Final Frontier. It still has Captain Kirk in it, and they yeah, that was a good one too.
Oh yeah, because
But
I think I've seen all the ones where Captain Kirk was in those now,
yep.
and then they started to change them later.
Change it over
They've
to
got all kind of
Picard.
series on them now, yeah,
Yep.
and they've got I even captured or captured have some of their memorabilia
Yeah, that's
from
cool.
days going
That's
back,
cool.
and they and I still kept some newspaper clippings when they would
Right.
celebrate their anniversaries.
Right.
I've got some of those. I found a cover at a sort of a swap meet that somebody was selling for 25 cents. So I bought that,
Yeah.
and so I've got this little album of things that
Right.
physical pieces
That's so cool.
that I've kept just maintained because of that.
That's
And
cool.
so yeah, Gene Roddenberry was very all these things about the communicator and how people, they just kind of, they touch that little thing with the
Yep.
communicators
Yep.
on
Yep.
there
Yep.
and how they generate things. I mean, all the tools now, he was really ahead of his time
Yeah.
with some of the things that he came up with, and
Yeah.
it's been pretty amazing. So, and then here we are today, actually living some of those things. So,
And the modern day Gene Roddenberry, in my opinion, is one of the richest men on earth, which is Elon
mm,
Musk. The
yeah.
things that he's seeing and trying to create, with the universal high income, that is where, if it is successful, I argue that we will have many more innovators. It will birth an
Hmm.
age of a newer age of innovation in which new creative ideas will start flowing forward.
Yeah, yeah. Elon Musk thinks out of, like he's in a different world. I heard him joking, call himself the alien on stage. He said, "I'm an alien. Don't you know that?" I think people were he probably heard people were saying he was an alien. I heard one thing somebody
Yeah.
said about him was that, oh, well, yeah, he's an alien and the Earth is his science project. So I said, okay. And so I think he was sort of
Jokingly,
self-deprecating,
tongue
yeah,
in
with
cheek.
himself, like not deprecating, but not just kind of sort of beating up on himself about that. With I didn't mean that, but he was beating up on himself
Right,
with his own jokes. He said, look, I
right,
can take a joke. Yeah, you can talk about me, but I'm still going to be doing all these other things out here.
right.
So, but anyway, but that's been interesting. Being able to follow how things were looked at years ago
Hmm.
and how they are now and what we're actually living through now. It's really
Yes,
an interesting time to be alive.
it
Seeing,
is.
it really
It
is.
is. And
And
I think, a lot of people probably held this he held this mystique and this aura about him. But it's when he had that long form conversation with Joe Rogan, the very first one he had with
Hmm.
Joe Rogan, that's where
Hmm.
people began to see like, oh, well, he's an actual human being, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
He's a little weird, he's a little
yeah.
wonky, but he
Uh,
is actually a human being.
yeah,
So,
that's right. Yeah, he's a real human being, so we do know that. So that's interesting, man. Yeah. So yeah, but it's been a fun ride in terms of seeing where things are and where things are going. And so one of the things that I like to still encourage people is to jump on this, sort of,
yeah, it's not
with
too late.
some knowledge though. Yeah, you've got to be knowledgeable about it so you can provide input. And I'm going to go back to the podcast that I was starting, was trying to inform people, much like you're doing here, about AI to jump in because somebody has to policymakers
Educate.
and people, they need input from people. And the best
Yes,
way to get input is to learn about this stuff
yes,
and just kind of do a little bit of it, maybe a little bit of it at a time.
yes,
But the technology is such now that you can actually use that as a tool.
yes,
And
absolutely,
so one of the
absolutely.
things that, yeah, I also recommend is that and this is how people who use it. I mean, it's designed to augment your intelligence. I mean,
That's right.
it makes intelligence available to everybody, but it can automate. I mean, it can augment your intelligence, make you smarter and
Hmm.
more knowledgeable and more efficient about it. And so, you just kind of have to get over the fears of having to deal with it and not just go to the side of, well, this is bad and evil and it's going to take over the earth. uh, the best thing you can do is learn about it so that you can contribute to the conversation of how it should be shaped to the extent that guardrails need to be put up. You can contribute to that conversation because there are concerns. I mean, we learned a lot from social media, for example. There are a lot
That's
of
right.
things that were missed with social media, and so right now you've got the issue of kids being
Screen
just
time.
they just locked into their computers,
Yeah.
2-year-olds and 3-year-olds,
Right.
scrolling. They know how to scroll back and forth. I've got grandkids that
Yeah.
that they're locked in to
Yes.
these things,
Yes.
and so we have to get ourselves locked into this so that we can learn about it to try to educate them, and then because there are some harmful effects of so much attention on these things,
Yes.
and so it's good to know about these things and so that you can contribute to the conversation and
I
and
I
and you can
agree.
go and it's free. The information, access to this information is literally free to try to learn about it. It talks for some people who don't know it. You can just sit it on talking mode and have interactive conversations with it,
Right.
back and forth on that.
And
So.
one thing that I feel that will help people get past the fear side of it is I really do feel like you do need to start that podcast up again, and how you can help guide and navigate people through it is exactly that. What it will help people get over their fear is to have somebody showing them the how. You
Mhm.
see, they don't understand the how because it's so big. If you've never used the internet before, it's very intimidating. And if it intimidates you, it's going to create fear. And if it creates fear, you're going to push back against it. But if you have
Mhm.
an educator that can say, okay, what exactly are you scared of? Like, let me show you what it can do. Let me show you this. It's like, oh, I didn't know it could do that. Can it do this? And that's how they're locked in.
Mhm.
That's how they get locked in, is because, and the other thing that you have to kind of be mindful of, because it's interactive for those people that are unfortunately not socially inclined, it can trap them and they say, oh, I now have a friend. And they get locked
Yes.
into that friend that is like a feedback loop of favorable things that they want to hear. It comes as this overused phrase, but it's true. It becomes an echo chamber, and next thing you know, you're in a relationship with your AI. So they have to always understand that this artificial intelligence It's a walking stick on the path of life. It is not your legs. It is not your legs of your body.
Hmm.
It is your walking stick in life. And so, again, most people are probably intimidated with using the walking stick because it's so
Yeah, you're,
fancy and it's so complex. But
yeah.
having you as a guide showing, like, okay, what scares you about AI? Becoming a psychologist, psychiatrist, sociologist to explain to them, like, okay, this scares you. Let me show you it can do this.
Hmm.
It's like, well, that's so hard to do. No, it's not that hard to do. Here, do this. And then they're like, oh,
Hmm.
for example, we use a loan operating system called Encompass. So in it, we have a person that's basically an administrator. She that's not her primary function, but she knows it. And so I wanted to know a process, and I because I'm always when I need it done, I'm always emailing her. Well, she's handling our whole division. I know she doesn't have the time to do this for me every time, and I just want to know, can I do it? Do I have the access to be able to do it? So she sent me an email yesterday and it's like, hey, can I jump into your profile, run it as you? And I was like, yeah. She's like, you should be able to do this. I'm like, okay. Because the way I was doing it, it wasn't letting me do it.
Hmm.
So she jumped in and she said, okay, can you do this? I'm like, yes. Can you do this? Yes. Can you do this? I was like, aha, I got it. I know how to do it. And then I was like, this is great. I know how to do this process now.
Yeah,
You got it? It's like, yeah, I got it in one try. So this is
yeah,
what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna promise when I have to do this process again, I'm gonna create a video because I know how to create videos of how I did this process and then upload it into SharePoint. That way, anybody that needs to know how to do this process, they just
man,
if
that's
if
awesome.
they do if they want to, if they're more of a I want to read it, that's how I learn the process. Okay, that's not how I learn. If I want to do it, then if they want to, they can call somebody or they can just watch the video and try it themselves until they get it right.
Yeah, yeah, man.
But
Look,
that's
that's
that's what
great.
it is. That's what with AI, that's what it has. That's what it needs. That's how you break that fear is by having somebody that just does a little step by step.
Hmm. Yeah, and so yeah, that's a great point and a great example too, because right now AI can take you step by step
Right.
doing those things. But I know your point is about having some people to do that, and I've done some training with some people, some groups, and I've spoken to some lawyers about it and things like that, and done some continuing legal education
Mhm.
sessions about the use of it, and
You
it
got a
does
captive
help.
audience with that, especially with
Yeah,
people getting
yeah,
in trouble for
and
using AI in the
yeah, I have,
courtrooms. You
and
got a
I've done
very
some.
captive audience.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's
that's true.
great.
Yep,
That's
yep.
great.
You're right about that.
They're
And
not going to stop using it, by the way. Kim
no,
Kardashian
no,
tried
they're
to use
not.
it.
They're not. They're not. And yeah, and so some of the setting I've done some for just the general public sessions
Right.
on some things. So and it does help to do it. As a matter of fact, I was at a conference just this past Thursday at Alabama State.
Hmm.
Had a really great conference. I mean, it was very impressive.
Hmm.
Lots of people that came through.
Hmm.
I'm sure they'll probably do it again. It was such a
Right.
success. Dr. Locke was a keynote speaker there.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Um, and I don't know if it's recorded. I hope it was recorded. And then some of the sessions were, and then Boyd Stevens was also a keynote speaker. I think
Oh,
you know
wow.
Boyd
Yeah.
and did an outstanding job. And but the conference was it was actually a global conference because
Oh.
they had, in addition to having breakout sessions, I did one of the breakout sessions, and so. But in addition to that, they had some hands-on sessions where people could do just what you're talking about, come in and get some one-on-one attention. Well, there was a group of people in the room, but you could literally get one-on-one attention on how to set these things up, how to work it, how to open up an account. You could do that. Or they had sessions going on where they had a hackathon going on
Oh,
uh,
nice.
with
Yeah.
about 3,000 people, students on it
That's
that
so
there was
cool.
several days where they were going to build some things. And the city of Montgomery use their data. It was giving students access to through APIs to access their data and create things and see ways, create ways that uh, this data can be more effectively used. Come up with
Mm.
little devices and plans and
Gosh, you could
platforms.
use that. It's such a great think tank to
Hmm.
from a free labor aspect, educational aspect, having that many minds in the room, you could use those to active everyday processes and find ways to augment the existing systems that are being used within municipalities or counties and governments. You can have some small the application of it is actually, you know, that's pretty. There's this video. Uh,
Yeah. Okay.
uh, uh, it's a comedy like quick advertisement. It's for Energen. It's an actual company.
Okay. Okay.
I'll send you a little video clip. It's and again,
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
you have to take it as comedy. Take it as comedy.
Okay.
Don't take it seriously. You could take it
Okay.
seriously, but don't. I look at it as comedy. Um,
Hmm.
but there is a YouTuber by the name of CoffeeZilla, and now the
CoffeeZilla.
more yeah CoffeeZilla,
Oh,
and so
CoffeeZilla.
what he does is he investigates scams and Ponzi schemes and all these different types of things. His most recent episode, I've only watched a couple minutes of it, involves deepfake AI, and so it kind of circles back to our point of how with deepfake technology, like the really good stuff, it would cost thousands of dollars. Whereas now with deepfake, which is AI, I never connected it to until this moment. Um, he was able to do this very quick intro clip in minutes
Hmm.
with less money. And so that's the type of stuff that people need to be more aware of. This is the scams that are happening at a very small level, very cheap level that are still f faking people out.
Yeah.
But I'll send you that episode too and that
Yeah, I'd
little
like to see
that little
that. Yeah,
comedy clip.
thank you.
It's
Yeah, I'd love to see
yes,
that. Yeah,
yes,
yeah. Because
um,
yeah, so deep fakes are a real issue too. But let
yes.
me in terms of this conference, it was a collaboration between the city of Montgomery, the Alabama State, and the Board of Education.
Oh
And
wow.
so it was really a total success. I'm hoping to hear more about the outcomes of it because it was really the kind of thing that needs to happen more in the community. You know, these kind
Yes,
of efforts where people are pulled in to learn about it. If you don't have, because there were people who just didn't know anything
absolutely.
about it that were
No
willing to
clue.
come and learn. Of course, there were a lot of students there, but there were business people, people in, with from larger companies that were there.
Hmm.
They sent representatives, so it was a neat conference that I
Was this the
enjoyed.
first time they've ever done it?
Yes, it was the first time. First time.
Okay.
Yeah. It was
Okay.
kind of
Good.
headed up by a committee, I guess a joint committee of those three organizations. Dr. Obis was the one that I communicated with there, but it was a really good conference, and I'm hoping to see more of those just around the city, even just maybe smaller ones, and
Yes.
then leading back up to a larger one, because it really did a good job of drawing people in and giving the average person an opportunity to learn about AI, because
Yes.
it is,
Because it
yeah, I was gonna
it's
say it's here, it's coming, and
that's right.
it's
That's
not
exactly what I
something
was gonna
that you can
say.
ignore. You just simply
It's not
can't
going
ignore it.
away.
It's not going away, right?
No. No. It's like the internet. The internet's here.
It's here.
It's never going away.
It's going to be around. It's going to be around whether you accept it or not. It's going to be around. So,
And so to that point, distributed ledger technology,
hmm
cryptocurrency,
hmm
it's been around. It's
yeah,
not going away.
yeah,
It's not
no,
going away.
it's coming. Frankly, to
It's
be honest
here.
with you, I thought that crypto and blockchain would have taken off faster and sooner than it did. Because like I said when I mentioned earlier, part of the things that part of our conversation and part of my even my intro, I think, was talking about. blockchain and of course AI. Uh, and so that technology itself, even beyond the crypto, my interest in it was not necessarily the crypto, but it was the underlying technology of blockchain.
Yes.
I mean, that's the
Yes.
underlying technology for
Yes.
crypto, and
Yes.
but it has the blockchain technology has application in so many other areas
And it's
that
already
when
been utilized.
it's being utilized now, there are a lot of regulatory issues, which is probably
That's
one
the
of the
problem.
reasons that it's kind of sort of bottlenecked in some places and still hasn't completely broken loose. But
It's time though.
it's very close. Certainly, the ability for this to take off is, but I think because it involves so many people and certainly the banks have a really big interest in that too. So, and that's, obviously highly regulated.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
but I think it's pretty close to breaking loose and becoming a thing that people will be talking about, much like we're talking about AI in the near future. So look out for that. But
Hmm.
that technology, for example, you're talking about the distributed ledger technology. Uh, Insurance companies would be greatly interested in that. Uh, but business,
Mortgages,
yeah, mortgages. I mean, like a real estate close. Well,
deeds,
this is,
title.
yeah, these
Yep.
all that. You put
All
all
of it.
that on the,
All of it.
sort of on the
Blockchain.
blockchain and closings rather than taking uh, weeks to, a month or 6 weeks to do a closing. You can do it
It,
in a day.
in a
Literally,
day.
you can do it in a
In a
day.
day. You can
You
move
can do it
value in
in
a
a day.
day.
Yeah, the technology
Yep.
is there for that. So
Yep.
so that's an important piece that will at some point it'll break loose. It'll just kind of do its own thing,
It's there.
and it's already
It,
here. You're right about that.
and here's the thing about that most people will say, well, this particular coin is still too expensive, or this particular coin is too cheap, or whatnot. You know, the point of it is that whether you think you're too late or too early, you're still on time. So if you have
Mhm.
an investor's mindset and not not short-term trade, but long-term investor's mindset, just do like you've always done with like a savings bond. Buy it,
Mhm.
set it, forget it. Crock pot it. You know,
Yeah.
just find something. But this is by no means financial advice. It's just educational purposes. Find something, buy it, set it, forget it. And if it
Mhm.
does, good, great. And if it doesn't, then that's okay too. Because if you, again, the entry point is so cheap that it's what I love about what I love about this whole concept is it reminds me a lot of years ago when I used a company called ING Direct. And they
Mhm.
allowed fractional share buying. And you could buy fractions of shares for whatever you could afford. And I thought that was so great. I can get all these great stocks back then. This is back in mid 2000s, maybe, you
Okay.
know? So it was kind of new to me at the time. So when I saw, you know, just to use as an example, Bitcoin come around, I'm like, oh, I can get like pieces of Bitcoin for whatever I can afford. And so, the PA as the technical, financial, whatever they were called, price appreciation.
Mhm.
That's all I do is just buy a little here, buy a little there, and just set it aside. Whether the price appreciates or not, I don't really care. But because I understand, just like this whole conversation being forward looking, eventually from the yield curve of the business life cycle, we're all still early adopters when it comes to
Yes.
AI, when it comes to cryptocurrency. We're the early adopters of it. So when it gets to the point where it's so mainstream that it's a part of everyday life, if you have the wherewithal and foresight to, when I say invest, I mean putting your actual physical dollars, euro, pounds, whatever, into this for the purpose of 1 day price appreciation, well, then you're already an early adopter and you're way ahead of everybody else, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I'm glad you have a great understanding of that, and I'm glad you gave the disclaimer too. This is not legal advice. It's
No,
just
this is educational
educational
purpose
purposes,
only.
and you're not offering any advice. So that's why, I would just say, learn about it,
That's
study
right.
it, get into. There are organizations out there that are specifically focused on certain types of crypto, but generally
Right.
learn about it. There's a lot of knowledge. If you gain some basic information about it, it'll help you to make a decision on what
That's
you
right.
want to invest in because of
That's right.
the different areas that these coins represent
Right.
when you
Exactly.
choose to get one. As I said, we're not offering any advice on these, but
No, it's
we're
just
saying
educational purposes only.
get educated,
It's just a
get educated
conversation
about it
about what we know
so that
or
if an
don't know.
opportunity comes up, you will know how to jump in or be prepared to jump in if and when something that you're knowledgeable about
That's right.
pops up on that.
That's right.
But yeah, it's going to be look. And I'm gonna so and to explain this, I'm going to because I'm going to bring in a little of my faith in here. There's a
Of course.
story
Please.
that uh, in the Bible about I've equated this story with how crypto works or with how the distributed ledger works. I say I'm not talking specifically about crypto, but more of this the blockchain works.
The technology.
Yeah, the technology itself. So this is an example. Most people or a lot of people are familiar with. Of course, I'm a Jesus follower, and but most people um, equate. Um, the story in the Bible is that I'm thinking about is the book of Ruth, in the book of Ruth, and most people
Okay.
are familiar with the story. A lot of folks are, um, and in that book, in that story, a story that's about Ruth and Boaz and how
Yes.
how Ruth, Naomi, had lost her sons and husbands, and so she had to go back to her homeland,
Right.
and and as a result, she met Ruth. Naomi arranged through arrangements. Look, you go over here and work in this field
Yes.
and glean a little bit,
That's right.
and eventually you'll gain the favor of Boaz, who I have some knowledge about
Right.
Boaz. And so that eventually happened, and they kind of, they Boaz noticed her and eventually liked her. And so the point that I want to, that like, question is like, how in the heck does that equate to, what are you talking about blockchain? Where does this stuff come in?
Yeah.
Or what kind of, am I tuned into the right place here? So anyway, but look, I can promise you, I'm going to try to tie it together here. So anyway, but the short version of the story is that Boaz sort of became infatuated with Ruth and
Right.
wanted her as his wife. And but he had to go through a process. It was determined he knew that he had a brother. I think it was his brother. So, there may be some parts of this that I don't get exactly right, but he had a relative at least that was in the pecking order above him that was
Right.
supposed to that had the rights to be able to claim Ruth as his among his wives. And I'm saying wives. It may have been something differently called than wives,
Right.
but he had a cousin, and so he had to go through her.
Right.
And the way you do that, though, which I found fascinating, I said, well, this is how blockchain. And so this is the first time I'm publicly explaining this how blockchain works through the Bible. Um,
Okay.
but but anyway, and this is sort of I believe it's a Jewish custom to do things this way,
Hmm.
but. Um, But anyway, he had to call some elders together. I'm going to say like nine elders together, and among them were I think his brother or the relatives was in the group, and I can't recall exactly where. It's been a while since I
Sure.
read the story, but this
Sure.
just came back to me. But anyway, so he called. Let's say there were nine relatives in the group, and this is
Hmm.
and and what he did was he announced that, look, I would like to take her as in my fold,
Right.
but you've got rights to her,
Right.
and so here she is. If you want her, you can. she can join your family.
Right.
And he said, and the relative said, no, I don't want her
Right. Yeah.
because I think his reason was that there were some things that would mess him up because he didn't want to have to distribute land or some other things, but they were
Yes.
affected. Bottom line was that he did not want her.
Right.
And not that he didn't dislike her, but he just said, "No, I'm good. She can join your family." So what they did at that point was he took off his shoe
Yes.
in the presence of these nine elders and gave him the shoe.
Right. Yes.
And the shoe was witnessed by I'm calling it nine elders. I don't recall how many people there
Sure. Sure.
were
Sure. Sure.
witnessed. The nine people witnessed this event taking place,
That's right. And it's recorded.
which locked it in, so
Yep.
that he had proof that look, I didn't just come and get her out of order. I
That's
went through
right.
the process,
That's
and
right.
so
That's right.
if anybody questioned that, then there were nine people who could validate the transaction,
Validate
right?
the
They
transaction.
could
Yeah.
validate the
Yeah.
transaction. They
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
nine
Yeah.
people around that could validate that no, she was okay to join my family. And that's kind of how the distributed ledger works on the blockchain.
That's exactly how it works.
It's
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's and the information the process now is immutable, and you mean that you can't change it. I mean the technology is that
The
tight.
nodes. Yep.
Right,
The nodes have
but you put
validated
them,
it.
you put it on the ledger. All the transactions will be on the ledger. Let's say a real estate closing. You
Yep.
put all the transactions, the title, the
Yep.
banknotes, the money,
Yep.
all of that, and all these people are connected to it. You have a public key to
That's right.
access this information,
That's right.
and then if anybody changes anything
That's
on
right.
the blockchain,
You see
it's
it.
gonna get noticed.
Yep.
There's some things that happen to that,
Yep.
and it'll mess things up.
Right.
And so and basically that's how that ledger works. And you can add anything to this, but it's out there. And when you execute the transaction, everything happens instantly. The money
Yep.
gets distransferred, the title gets
Yep.
transferred,
Yep.
contracts are signed, people are paid, all in one transaction once it's all out there, and it happens really quickly.
Yep.
So the Bible has roots in Bible has roots in, well,
I
God's word
love
has
it.
roots in everything.
I
So,
love it. I love it.
but that was an example that I said was because I recall trying to explain blockchain during that podcast, and I
Yeah.
didn't have that example, so I've got it now. If I when I start back to doing
That's
my
so great. I love it.
uh,
That's because that
so
is by far that is exactly the easiest way that you can integrate the Old Testament, the faith, into explaining a modern day technology because you're absolutely right because they had nine witnesses that witnessed that transaction, which is exactly what it is. It's you're having these nodes across the internet
mhm.
all witnessing the transaction and it's stamped. And that's it. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. And the amazing thing is that this was the lineage of Jesus where this was all going on.
Yes.
So we've
Yes.
had church today now. So look,
Yes.
we
So
can look,
we
let's
can
just pass
close out.
we got to pass the collection plate first.
Time's enough for
And then we
me.
can sing a song and then we can all go home. So
That's
that's it. We've
great.
had church today.
That's right.
Oh man.
You were the one. I don't know if you remember this. I'm sure you do. When we would, with your small group, when you would pray, I became fascinated with it. And I said, um, I can't remember what I said because it's been almost 13 years, maybe more, uh, or less. But what captivated me with your prayer, and I was like, well, how do you pray like that? And he's like, well, I always thank the Lord in my prayer when I pray.
Mhm.
Your prayer in some form or shape will always have some attitude of gratitude and thankfulness within the prayer. So, um, I didn't know if you knew this, but when I first went through the growth track, the dream team that I joined, because I felt led to that, was prayer.
Mm.
That's the dream team I joined. Out of all the dream teams I've ever been a
Man.
part of, that's the only one. That's the only one I have,
Wow.
like much like technology, I have an affinity for is prayer.
Yeah, I did not know that, man. Well, I'm happy to hear that because that's that's certainly how the word works. How the
Hmm.
spirit works on it. I
Hmm.
know you were very active, and I was sort of helping with financial small groups at that time,
Yes. Yes. Me
and you
too.
were part of my small group,
Yes.
and
Goldie. Goldie's one
and
name
we
comes
let
to mind.
oh yeah, that's right, sure
Goldie
did.
Brown.
Yep,
Yep.
Goldie Brown was another person that was there, and certainly we were learning about giving God's way and things like that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I did not know that. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with me, and I do. And look, the model that I follow is Jesus in that because if you notice, um, before he does anything, he gives thanks to God. He gives thanks to the Heavenly Father. I mean, literally, if you go around and look at places where he makes comments, he gave thanks and broke the bread, or when he fed the 5,000, which we know was more than 5,000, he gave
Right.
thanks. So
Yeah.
he would always give thanks to God. So you can't have a better model to follow than that
No.
in
And
terms
it
of
makes
that.
sense
So
because the Lord is the source of everything.
hmm
And just you can look at a sense of more of a not I'm trying to find the best way to articulate um because there's two different ways. It looks the same, but it's not the same.
hmm
So you can give thanks as part of a process, just thank you, Lord, I appreciate what you're doing. Or you can do it from a place of sincerity that is so genuine
Yeah.
that others feel it and know that you are sincerely thankful for it, you know? And
Amen. That's
again,
right.
when
Yeah.
you hear people give thanks, and that's why Jesus used the parable of the lady that when she gave her tithes, and Jesus said, saw all the other people in the temple giving their tithes. He said, hers, even though she gave this much, she gave everything she had.
Yes.
And
It was still more.
that
Yeah.
offering is that offering is pleasing to the Lord.
hmm Yes. That's absolutely right. And that's where you want to be. I mean,
Yes.
because if you do it in that situation, you'll do it for others. I mean,
Yes.
we are all God's children,
Absolutely.
and that's that spirit connecting when that happens. And I certainly appreciate you telling me that. It makes me feel good to to know that those kinds of things had an impact on you, and which I had no idea. But I'm certainly grateful that you mentioned it, and
You've impacted a
perhaps a
lot
little,
of lives. You've
yeah.
impacted a
But
lot of lives, for
well,
sure.
a lot of people have impacted my life as well. So, and you're among those people too. So we've obviously remained friends a long time. So
We
definitely.
have, and I think, I think this conversation was a long time coming, and I think the
Mhm.
reason why it took so long to come is that we'd have so many different stories to share, things that we did not know about each other, and
Sure.
the
Yeah.
help deepen, our connection, being like, wow, I didn't know that about you, or I
Mhm.
didn't know that
Yeah.
about this topic.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a great topic to bring us together on.
Yeah,
So yeah. But there are like I said, there are things that people can do to kind of sort of dive into this because and people of faith need to do that also. I mean, this
absolutely.
is because what I'm seeing is are some people in the faith community have been a little slow to adopt this or
Right.
to really dive in a way that that they can benefit from it and be
Absolutely.
leaders in this
Absolutely.
space. And
Yeah.
I've been invited to a couple of some churches and certainly plan to go to some events that where I talk about it.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
it's sort of just to
Absolutely.
be a part of a couple of sessions. Which one pastor I just kind of yeah, pastor, this is you. I would definitely say you should do this and to sort of educate the community about these things.
Absolutely.
And
Because
that's being well received, though. So I
yes.
think that the faith community will catch up.
Yes, but well, because in this dark world we need spiritual light.
hmm
We need
Yes,
spiritual light.
absolutely. It's, and these are times, Satan is busy,
Yeah.
and he is going to do everything he can to divide people.
Hmm.
And so,
Technology is
and
a good way to divide people.
it's a good way to do that, right? But you got to have that foundation. You got to
Hmm.
have the technology kind of sits on it, but you got to have that foundation where when things happen, you still know, who's on the throne,
Who's the
and
source?
that we're still, we're still all God's children,
Yeah.
and Jesus showed it, he showed the way on how to do that, how to
Yeah.
interact with each other. So yeah, technology is a good way to bring people together as much as it is, to try to divide people. So yeah, so there's certainly something we need to be mindful of,
Absolutely.
going forward on this, man. So yeah, but I did want to say one thing that there was I always like to get people to think about technology, and when I often start a conversation, particularly if it's in a group, what do you think? How much do you think that technology or AI is going to affect the world? That's the first question I'll ask is, do you think AI is going to affect the world?
Absolutely.
And most people come back and say, what would you say? I'm gonna put
Absolutely.
you on the spot. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
And then the next question I ask is, so how do you think AI is going to affect you do what you do, your job and what you do?
At this time, it can be used as a resource to make it my ability to generate leads probably can assist in that. It can
Hmm
probably assist in taking away the paperwork, the clutter, all the detailed list, all the things that are wetware up here. It can probably minimize that down low.
hmm
So
Yeah.
that's what it can do. I know it can do that. My question for myself is how? How do I use it? What do I use it? And those types of things. And that goes back to the point of people can understand the value of it. They understand that it inherently can do something great, but they just don't know how. Like they need that how to that like, okay, I understand what you want to do. Type this in. If you know how to use a keyboard. If you don't know how to use a keyboard, we got to start way back, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I know for a fact that AI agents, all these different things, they can be utilized. So for me, my homework is being able to allocate the time to say, okay, I'm gonna devote I can't devote an hour to this because I got family, yada, yada, yada. But maybe I can devote 10 minutes to this. Okay.
hmm
From this 10 minutes, if it's creating this efficiency, freeing up more time, then I can devote another half an hour to this, an hour to this. And eventually, what should happen if I'm using AI properly, my overall production should go up, which increases my revenue, which obviously should increase more time. A small business owner that I talk with, he has a mentor that says, as you get to the upper levels of your business, you have to eventually take time to look at
hmm
cutting back, pruning basically to go forward. Because there's certain people within your industry, within your company, that are actually hindering your growth. And so you have to be able to look and analyze at it and say, hey, we're you you're valuable. What you've done for this company is valuable, but we need to continue to grow. And so we may need to place you here to help augment us
hmm
better. And
hmm
if you're willing to do that, that's great. If you're not willing to do that, then unfortunately we may have to place you with a completely different company. I will be glad to give you a letter of recommendation. So
hmm
that's with AI. I know it can help, you know, make my business go way up.
hmm
But the question is how. And for me, from a homework aspect, I just have to say, okay, I know what I want AI to do for me. What piece of AI can I use to do that? And then how much homework do I need to put in to learn how to utilize it? Or, asking you, Terry, this is what I know I need to do. Can AI do this?
Hmm.
How do I need to use it for this? And then go from there.
Oh man, look, that's such a great question and an explanation of things. You got a lot of stuff in that question. You should kind of maybe bookmark this question because you've got so much in there, so many ways to go that it's just filled with all kind of good, juicy opportunities to respond to, which I'm going to try to do at this point. But I just kind of wanted to highlight it's a really good question, and you're a great example of how to approach it and to raise those questions. So let me just
Right.
kind of start here. Let me just start
Okay.
with you had man. Let me readjust myself here in the seat. And if I had more hot chocolate, I'm not a coffee drinker. I'd probably take a sip of that before I start answering it. But man, that's a really good question. I mean, it's a nice question. So the first thing I would say is your acceptance of the fact that things need to change or that things are going to change. So before I get to any of the technical side or the strategic information,
Hmm.
I want to point out the sort of the thing that people should look at about AI, and that is, first of all, their attitude about it. I mean, you
Right.
you've clearly accepted the fact that this is something that I need to do.
Right.
It's got to be done. You didn't demonstrate exhibit any fear. You
Right.
didn't, and not that people, I mean, there's good reason to have fear over some things, but
Absolutely.
but I'm just saying as you were explaining this, you're saying, look, I got to get on this. This is something that I know I can use it some kind of way. I just
Right.
don't know how right now. I
That's
just
right.
don't know what to do. Sort of
Right.
it's an implementation kind of issue that you've
Yes.
got. And so I just want to point that out because once you cross that hurdle, then it's just a matter of time before everything starts to flow. And
That's right.
so just based on that part of our conversation, 6 months from now, you will be doing some things totally different than you are in a year from now. You'll be so far in a different place with AI that um, it's just going to be a good thing. It'll be a productive thing.
Okay.
You're going to get the results you're looking for. I
Okay.
can I can tell you that. So
Okay.
so that's number one. And then the second thing that you touched on was probably one of the hottest topics out there, and that is how is this going to affect my job? Because
Right.
you spoke about people who are, that you want to help. You're taking an approach that, look, this is where we can better utilize you. And if you don't want to go there, then we will give you a letter of recommendation, which means that your job as it is will be terminated because we don't need somebody doing this.
Right.
And the great point about that approach, even if you're like, and there are some companies that are AI first companies that is
Mm.
AI or nothing, but
Mm.
but but with what you described, you want to help people first and give them an opportunity to use AI as a tool that can help augment what they do
Right.
to get better at it.
Right.
So jobs is the other big, is it going to eliminate my job? Well, it's got to be such a common phrase. No, AI won't take your job. What's going to take your job is somebody who knows how to use AI.
That's exactly right.
And so,
Exactly right.
so what you are pointing to, and you didn't necessarily say specifically AI, but you want them to learn to be more productive inside of your company, to be more helpful on that. And from a big picture standpoint, again, when I'm talking about the big picture here, your companies like yours are at a phase where they are trying to integrate AI into systems so that you can capture value out of it. You can
That's
start
right.
to see a return from that AI.
That's right.
So, and that's the problem that companies are having, big picture stuff, is how to integrate this into my existing operations on that. And so there are people that are essentially integrators now that
Hmm.
will help do that.
Right.
And so you've got, and I'm going to kind of piece by piece on this so that you can see or even teach or train somebody else about, how do I get here, and what kind of attitude or approach people need to have as you
Right.
deal with this. Because if you're running into resistance, which at whichever level, it's going to be a problem. You've got to get
Of
over the
course.
resistance. You've got to get people on the same page.
That's
And
right.
again, it's getting them comfortable with what's going on. People
That's
are
right.
naturally, I mean, we naturally have certain fears, and that's,
Of course.
it takes a while to get over that.
Sure.
And so the process that you talked about was, is a good way, is really a really good way, great way to approach it. We've got it. We're bringing this technology in. Now it's affected you this way, but look, if you can get up to speed on some things, here, we can use you here.
Yeah.
That's all you can ask. That's all you can ask. And if they
Yeah.
don't want to adjust to that, then you're happy to help them out
Right.
on that. So what you've described too also is what is the workflow. What is the workflow? So just generally speaking, what I like to try to do all is kind of give people an idea of what to expect. What is it that
Hmm.
you want? What is this particular job when it's at that level? What is it that this particular job, what is it that it does? Is it a manual? Does it do manual type tasks? And
Hmm.
the more manual it is or task oriented is, the more likely that AI can do it,
Right.
basically. And when you start getting into the strategic level, there are things that even at that level AI can still do,
Hmm.
but you can augment what you do, your knowledge base, more to still be of importance to your company based on your strategic thinking about how you go about doing things
Right.
on that. But from what you just described, one of the things that you want to do is look at the workflows of what your job entails, basically. What are the manual tasks that you have to go out and do?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
what you'll find is that these categories of things probably fit within some areas where you can more particularly pick and choose what type of AI that you need to do the tasks or tasks that are important in your job.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
so, so to make you more successful is you understanding, the task, the workflow of what it is that you do. What's the flow of
Right.
that? And then who are the people that are pulled into that?
Hmm.
How are they affected? What is it? What's the result that they often do? And I'm
Hmm.
describing things that these AI agents do. This is
Exactly.
this is part of the process for how agents are given their tasks. They're basically performing different tasks.
Hmm.
And oftentimes an AI agent, an individual agent will be created to do an individual task. Sometimes they have
Hmm.
one task that
That's
they
all
all
they
do.
do.
This
And
is
that
all they do,
takes,
is that one task. Now you will likely have a, I'm going to call it a chief agent
right,
who orchestrates the
the agents
roles
underneath.
of these other agents that are doing things.
That's right.
And you can think about it, but it's all still done in the context of the things that will give your particular job
Right.
productivity, make it
Yes.
productive. Because there was a study done, I think Stanford, I think it was a Stanford study done that showed that, and this was last year in 2025, and we just won't get into yet the pace of change that's taking place out there with AI, but it showed that a lot of companies reported taking on new AI projects, but there was a high failure rate among those companies that
Mm.
were claiming we're implementing AI right now. We've got AI going and we're doing this and we're doing that. And they were, because they wanted to sound like they were on top of things and
Yeah.
doing things. And to some
Yeah.
degree, it's still taking place. But when you ask them about and get into the details and ask them to describe the success rates of what they wanted to get done, it wasn't there.
They really hadn't implemented it. They were still talking about
They were
implementing
still,
the AI.
exactly. They were talking about
Yep.
it, and they
Yep.
were,
Yep.
they
The
were just kind
bureaucracy.
of dipping their toe in some things,
Yep.
and they were kind of looking around, seeing what other companies are doing,
Right.
And this particular study I'm thinking about, one, it was, you know what, it might have been, I don't know, but actually the financial sector was a big target for of this study that was done
Hmm.
last year,
Hmm.
and pointed out some of these things. So they were not having great success rates, but now I think the leadership is kind of buying in more so, and
That's
really
where it
giving
needs to
people,
start.
yeah, it does need to start with the leadership, buying in, putting policies in place so people
Right.
actually know. See,
That's right.
policies really help to guide the
Yes.
success or failure of companies.
That's
If you
right.
don't have good policies in place, it's going to be
That's right.
difficult to be successful because people don't know. They need to know what they're what they can and can't do. And so
And
you
and
got,
here's a very simple example of that.
okay.
And it's so simple that you would think, well, how is this relevant? It's actually very relevant. So in a certain organization, um, there isn't really a clearly defined absentee policy, as in if you miss work, X amount of days, you need a doctor's note.
Hmm.
Okay. A particular employee has missed a lot of work, to which when this was explained to me, I was like, y'all don't have a policy in place saying clearly defined, you missed 3 days of work, you need to be providing us with a doctor's note because, you know, granted, the employee's health could legitimately be that bad. However, the person could also be abusing the system. We don't know which way it is because you don't have this simple in the HR handbook guideline saying if you miss 3 days, I need a doctor's note, you see. And so from taking it to what we were just talking about, when it comes to AI, if you can get the leaders on board with the regulations and policies saying, okay, I understand. It's not perfect, but we need to put the structure in place anyways, these rules, these borders, these guidelines, saying this is what we expect, with the understanding of it's a living document. We're going to go back and
Hmm.
revise it. Obviously, we're going to put the big guardrails to preserve and protect the company, obviously. And from there,
Hmm.
as time goes on, we'll evolve it. And that's what makes, if you think about it, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, such a beautiful living document
Hmm.
for the United States of America.
Sure, yeah.
The founding
Yeah.
fathers knew that over time we were going to have to go back and revisit this. That's why they call it an amendment.
Yes, that's exactly right. Exactly right. So you got to have those policies in place to guide, and like as you call it, guardrail, so people will know what they can do, and then they
That's
have
right.
a better level of comfort,
That's right.
throughout the whole process.
That's
And
right.
so
It's an
so
adoption. The
yeah, it
adoption rate
is.
goes way up.
It helps a lot, and so and they're more receptive to that because they know, and because it's important to get your people on board as
That's right.
well. I mean, you
That's
just
right.
can't decree that you shall do this and it shall be done.
That's right.
They say,
That's
okay,
right.
buddy, yeah, you come down here and do it.
Yeah.
I'm not touching it. So
I mean,
yeah.
you can decree it, but the organization might not last long.
That's right. That's right. And people understand that. They know that.
That's right.
So have policies
Adoption
that
works a lot better than enslavement.
it really does. Absolutely does, man. I'll tell you. And you'll either learn now or learn later if you don't do it.
Right.
But in terms of the process, though, you kind of full circle with how that happens, and so get those workflows done, and then but use AI in the process of your thought process. Use AI as a thought partner.
Thought
This will
partner.
augment what
I
you
like
do,
that.
and then teach
Is
others how to
is that a
use it.
unique phrase, or have you
I
heard
wish
that
it
one
were
before?
unique. I didn't come up with it.
That's a great phrase, thought partner.
I've seen it used out there, and I've described it in different ways. I probably used it
Yeah,
before I heard it, but somebody wrote something, and so I can't claim
thought
ownership
partner.
of
That's
that
it's great.
particular
That's so
phrase.
good though. That's
But
that's exactly what
but
AI is. It's a thought partner.
but it is as a partner, and then you when you view it differently, it's is something that you more readily accept too.
Hmm.
And there's one other
Hmm.
point I want to come back to a little bit later when you were talking about getting dependent on it and having a relationship
Yes.
with your AI. Definitely
Yes.
want to touch on that before we wrap up
Sure.
on that. But I want to finish this train of thought
Sure.
about your workflows on that. I'm gonna make a little note here that I'm gonna come back to that before we close. Uh,
But as you can tell, Terry, the what makes this fun
mhm,
and engaging, so engaging, is because I know that everybody can do a scripted format, and I know
mhm,
that. But what captivated me and drew me into the format that I use, and because I was sitting there, I was like, why am I sitting here listening to this much? I mean, what, why? Why does this captivate me so much more
okay.
than this one? Well, and it's because of the long form conversation.
Sure. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
long form
Mhm,
conversation, it just natural, and the reason why it works is because if you think about people that you build a real relationship with, you get into a conversation with them. And the more
mhm,
that you engage with them, you find yourself talking with them more and more and more and more. And so you integrate this into your daily life and how this actually impacts your ability to sell. It actually impacts your ability to sell too, because you get
yeah,
so used to integrating this way of being into you. And you've grown up doing this. It's just a natural fit to just do this. So you just ebb and like you can get philosophical with it and say it's like water. You just ebb and flow with the water,
yes. Yeah.
you see.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the risk is that you kind of like, oh, we lost track. We gotta come back here.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Look, even that. Look, I'm gonna jump off and then jump around too just a little bit here. When you said water, it's like water. That's a Bruce Lee
Bruce Lee, absolutely. That's
phrase.
exactly what I was going to.
Bruce Lee
Yep.
phrase that he said, "It's like water, my friend."
Yeah.
It forms and goes into so I like what you said because look, I'm in martial arts too.
Okay, I didn't know
Been a
that.
martial
Okay,
artist for a
okay,
long time. So
okay.
I've got my little Bruce Lee thing, little book over here
Oh,
on
that's so cool.
the
Jeet
so
Kune
my
Do? You
little
got Jeet Kune Do?
no, I've got I know about that one, but no,
Mhm.
I've got a whole bunch of other books and
Uh-huh.
things that
Uh-huh.
and I found a little statue of him, making a
Yeah,
kick
yeah,
and
yeah,
doing
yeah.
some of that. So yeah, so but so yeah, but I like the model. I've enjoyed watching you guys, your podcast too. So the flow, I hadn't really thought about it because it's just like having a conversation.
Yes.
And you're gonna probably have to divide this up into two parts, man. We've been talking a while, so I don't know how you're gonna do this, but man, I mean, I think I would listen to it, but I don't know if I sit there and look at over an hour, I guess. But I'm happy to stay as long as you want to.
Yeah,
But but that long flow conversation, it's I'm just enjoying the conversation and being able to
exactly.
share on this. And so, however but it's a good format, obviously, because um, I haven't, as I said, I started that podcast and I'll probably start one back. I'm going to start a newsletter soon too.
Yes.
And, and I've got a book that's coming out. So, um, but anyway, but yeah, so I'm going to think about the format too, because
Yes.
I do like this, the conversation that we're having.
Yes.
People, you got to have some time if you're going to sit here and listen, though.
That's right. That's right.
But
But
you got
again,
ways to bring.
if you got a long drive ahead of you, right?
Yeah,
If you have
yeah,
a,
that's
it's
right. Well, that's true.
that's why the podcast format is
Hmm.
it's so that's why it's been adopted so easily. You could be
Hmm.
working out listening to it. It's
Yeah,
because the
yeah,
technology has become so accessible, so cheap. That's why
it
people can do
has. It
it.
is. Yeah, and
That's why it's working.
yeah, I agree with you on it too. So let me just one last closing comment about your workflow here too, so we can kind of leave that because I, want to make sure that I address that. And so you get your workflows done, and then there are different types of technology I mean AI that you can use to perform these various tasks. I mean,
Sure.
and some of them you'll probably find that they can be done by AI agents. And it's
Mm,
really we've kind of been hitting at AI agents, but but AI agents are going to be one of the most talked about topics, coming. And we've
yes.
talked about a little bit about how things have been changing in the past. Uh, but AI agents are kind of they're going to be a thing. They already are a
They
thing.
are a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but a lot of the tasks that you're talking about will be able to be done, and you can, and many of the large language models of the companies now have the ability uh, to create AI agents or GTPs,
Yes.
even doing
What's
GTP
what's a
for chat,
GGP?
well, chat GTP and chat
Oh,
GTP,
ChatGPT. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
creating these little
AI
uh,
agents.
yeah, these little modules that you can interact with and you train it. You
Yes.
train it.
Yes.
Gemini has gems,
Okay.
that you create. So there are
So
these.
what does Grok have?
I don't know what Grok has. I have not used Grok as I've tested Grok, but I haven't really spent much time with Grok.
I use chat
Um,
in Grok. I really
okay.
have. I'm so used to using chat because again, it's
Hmm.
first name recognition.
Yeah.
But what I from my point of view, what I would advise anybody that's going to start trying to use AI, don't literally do not marry yourself to one AI.
Hmm.
You know,
Right. Right.
use at least one other to be your counterbalance to help
Hmm.
with the discernment piece of it.
Yep.
Because if you're married to one, you're only seeing one point of view.
Yep.
Whereas if you at least have just a minimum, one more, you can at least still keep your core individual of who you are to help discern and see, okay, this one says this one says that.
Hmm.
I personally choose this.
Yeah. Yeah. Because see, right now you have the ability to pick and choose, but because some of them perform better than others at certain
Right.
tasks.
Right.
And so like one thing that's hot off the press, so you
Hmm.
can say, look, we got it here first or something. Um, who was it that it was Perplexity
Yes,
just
perplexity
released
for them.
a um, a model called Perplexity Computer. And you may want
Hmm.
to just Google that at some point in time, or say Google it, or go to Perplexity on their own, and then they have what's called Comet. Is their they use Comet to for their searches, um, but they released a model that builds AI agents for you. Of course, we have not talked about vibe coding, but yet, but this model is kind of up to this point is probably one of the most robust models to build AI agents with that I've seen or that's being talked about, and it does so because it's totally autonomous.
Hmm.
It can work for 24/7 for months at a time.
Wow.
You don't have to have anything special to utilize it. You can it runs in the cloud.
Wow.
It accesses like 19 different models, which are the different various models that we're talking about. I mean,
Hmm.
Opus, Gemini, Grok,
Okay.
ChatGTP, OpenAI. I mean, it can just access 19 different models to depending on what task it does. And then
So who owns perplexity?
well, the company is called Perplexity. It's
Uh-huh.
Perplexity is called Perplexity. Maybe
Right.
Perplexity Inc. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
it's
Because
that's
and that's my
mhm.
concern is that with these AI companies, you see, what most people aren't aware of, you you're gonna have to dive a little deeper. Who
Mhm.
is the
Yes.
company that started that company? And then who owns the company that it's
Man, that's a
layered.
great point. That is a really great point because, there different people.
Exactly.
companies that are being used create these companies, different countries create these companies,
That's right.
and there's a great, competition to be first and be used.
Yes.
And these companies, these models that we're using are seamless. I mean, we have access to models that were, made in China that
That's
are
right.
being very used, that are very popular,
That's right.
and in other countries as well. Australia, India. So we have access to all of these companies, and they're all in the building mode now
That's
too.
right.
So that's a great point to kind of dig and understand who owns the company, because that's who's going to be dealing with your data
Yes.
on
Yes.
that. And so you want to
And
know
from a
that.
cybersecurity aspect of it, we have to be aware that our information is not just valuable currency. It is information is a weapon. It is literally a weapon, and it can
Yes.
be used against you. And
Hmm.
so I think we actually touched on this kind of privately, but my concern is a country's ideological point of view can be a great detriment to the preservation of humanity, preservation of creativity, preservation of just ways of life.
Hmm.
Now, just me speaking just personally, I feel like one country can use because I mean I get it. I can see why you would do it. You can use capitalism as a tool to disguise yourself to say, "Oh, we're a capitalist society." Well, you dig a little deeper, it's like, well, you spoke out against us. We're going to put you in an education camp. You know,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
ran one of the biggest internet shopping search engines, and you kind of spoke out against us. Well, so we're going to have to kind of re-educate you, you
Hmm.
see.
Sure.
Without
Yeah.
saying his name, I think you can understand what I'm alluding to, that these countries you have to be aware of, in my opinion, and will always be in my opinion, because this is the only country I've ever really known and grown up in. America is the greatest country in the world.
Hmm.
Look
Absolutely.
how much creative thought, freedom we have because we're a Christian-based society. And so, because of that, in my opinion, we have been allowed to prosper because we are always going back to what you were saying, being so thankful to God for what we have, at the core. And because of
Hmm.
that, I believe his protective covering is on our nation. Because if it wasn't, then I think it would have went haywire a long time ago. But
Yeah.
it's important to understand, like with AI, if you're using this particular AI, and you really are having a true, like, it's a part of your everyday thing, well, go deep dive a little deeper. Let's find
Hmm.
out who exactly actually runs this company when, like, it's like an LLC.
Yeah.
You can have an LLC owned by an LLC, but owned by an LLC. Well,
Hmm.
you have to trace it back through beneficial ownership down to just one person.
Right.
Here's an
That's
owner.
right. Yeah, you do. And so you're so right about that. And we're certainly a blessed country. We're not a perfect country, but
No.
we're blessed. And I feel like God's covering has been over us, uh, from day one, and it's still over us,
Hmm.
uh, and is urging us to kind of get together
Hmm.
and do the right thing in
That's right.
spaces. So, so
That's right.
there's challenges to that, but we still should be all, there's only one God.
That's right.
So we just, we still have to work toward that. So that's going to always be a work in progress. But in terms of of getting the right time, knowing, who it is, this you can easily find out. You can just
That's
ask the
right.
technology itself, okay, who
Yes.
made you? And then just check it out at a couple of different places if
That's
you
what
want
you
to
do.
know,
That's
who's
what you
your
do.
founder, who owns this company, which is
Right.
what I do.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
is whenever I book some of the type of models that I run. I mean, for example, there's some models I just don't even uh, load on my computer, and so to answer your point, or to agree with it even more, just ask. You can ask to find out, and then you can.
That's interesting.
So the information is so open. You can just ask it, and then who owns it, and where you can
Okay.
dig as deep as you want to. You can ask the technology itself
That's interesting.
to do that. So So you don't even have to be dark in the dark on that because you can
That's cool.
counterbalance it and check it
That's
out
good.
from one side or the other,
That's
and
good.
you'll find out. And see, that's the other thing about this AI overall. It's going to enhance what you do. It makes you smarter. It really,
Right.
if you look at it from that point, it makes you smarter and gives you abilities that you didn't have. It makes you sort of like a superpower, give you some superpowers out there. So
It turns you into a supercomputer, really.
yeah, it does. It really does. It puts it at your fingertips, and it's they say it's commoditized intelligence. I mean, it's kind of
Commoditized
all over the
intelligence.
place. Um, Now I hadn't heard that term used. I'm not sure it sounds that great to want to say I coined that one, but that's that's what it is. Um, it's all being brought to the level of a commodity now because
Yes.
everybody has access to it,
Yes.
and all of this, and we will get to a point down the road where the use of AI will be will ubiquitous is look, that's a
Yes.
big long word, but
Yes.
it means that it's like your cell phone right now. You don't think anything
Yes.
about picking up your cell phone
Yes.
and you've got to have it as a part of what you do. People wonder, well, what did we ever do before cell phones? Well, that's how AI is going to be
Yeah.
probably in 5 to 10 years. And 10 years is a long time. A lot of it, that's a long way out.
I think
But
it's more towards the 5 year mark in my
yeah, I
opinion.
think 5 years it will be ubiquitous, which means that we won't these kind of conversations will be old news when you start to look back at AI and because everybody will be doing it, it'll be a part of what we do. And so that's why people have to make the adjustment to get into the place
Now.
where right now they're right, so that you're able to process faster. I mean, we are made, God made some amazing creatures when he made us all.
Yes.
And we were able to adapt uh, fairly easily. I mean, in terms of
Yes.
our surroundings, in terms of what's going on,
Yes. Our
things are just changing.
neuroplasticity is amazing.
Exactly, it is. But things are just changing a lot faster than they have been, from a
Yes.
technological standpoint. Now, they've always been changing fast because I was looking through a book, one of my books that I wrote, Received and Achieved Now.
Yes,
15.
I still have that in my bookcase. Yep.
Oh,
Actually,
really? Oh,
I
good.
have so so when I changed the guest room to be mom's room, we had a desk and we also
Hmm.
had a bookcase with our library. And so I had to put a lot of the books in the storage, but I had a personal library that I put in an arteriogram box. So I grabbed like the books that were written by my friends and I made sure to put it inside that personal library. So what I did
Yeah.
was I went and I put together a bookcase. It's a rotating bookcase. It's really cool. But
Okay, I can
that
see
the
the
book
shadow
is
of
on
it.
there. Yeah,
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 I can
yeah.
see the
It's right
silhouette of
there.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
right there. Yeah, it's a really cool
man,
bookcase, by the way. It's a pain in the butt to put together, but it's really cool. It's got at
really?
least.
Well, you have to send me something on that
I'll
book
send
because
you a video because it's
I've got.
rotating, so I don't know how many books I can put on here. I'm still putting books on there.
Oh, we still got room for it. Okay,
Oh
sounds
yeah,
like
I'll through.
yeah, man. Send me that so I can. I
Yeah,
think I want to get one of those because I've got some books that I like to put on thing and keep close by
yeah.
and
No,
that. So
it's really I think it only costs like $100 or something.
really, oh
Yeah,
man,
it's a
okay.
good hands-on project if you don't mind putting stuff together. I mean, it's a
Well,
lot of pieces,
look.
but
I hate putting stuff together, but I'll do it
you
because my wife she forces me to do it. She buys these things and then all of a sudden they come in this big flat box like, oh no, I gotta put this
Yeah,
together.
I know.
So
I know.
but
I
no, I
never
will.
became handy until I got married.
Well, that's the time for it. They don't put that in the marriage manual that you will get handy at building stuff that you hate doing.
That's
So
right.
so anyway,
And
because
so for me, my wife, she's like, "Well, my dad's so handy. He's hands-on, da da da. He's a man's man." It's like, and now me, as I'm having to put things together, like for the kids or whatnot, or around the house, I'm like, "Well, yeah, because he had no choice. He had to put this stuff together."
That's right. We have no options. It's not an option to do or don't do. It's you got to do it. So,
That's right.
man, well, okay. Well, I look forward to getting that. So,
Yeah.
but what I was saying though, in that book, then you can there's a section where I talk about, and this book was like 2012, I think
Yeah.
2013, yeah, something like that. I talk about a section of technology changing. That is the pace of changed and how it's changing. I'll give you the
Yeah.
page number in a minute.
Yeah.
Um, but it's and I guess you got the one with the little red star on it, the book, because
Yes.
I had two
Yes.
versions out there.
Yes.
Personal quick story. I have been procrastinating publishing the book, and at one point in time, I said, "Look, I'm putting it out there." So I put it out there because but I didn't. It wasn't quite finished, and but
Right.
I, it was
Okay.
like I've been playing with it. So there is a version out there, and Amazon still has got it. I think both of I don't know if both of them are still out there now. But I tell people it didn't have the little red star on it, which has, like 7 universal steps for success. But the other one didn't have that on it. So I asked him if you,
Yeah.
I always ask the question, does it have a little red little star on the front
Yeah.
and emblem so that you got the right one. You got the latest version of that
Yeah.
on it. But it was one of those things where you said like, look, you got to do this. Need to put this out there and
Right.
because how you say I'm going to do another version. And anyway,
Yeah.
that's another side note. But the
Yeah.
point about the book is I have a section where I talk about technology and social media and how things are changing and how to sort of not predict the future, but understand the future a little bit better. Understanding the waves of change. I think
That's right.
if you look in the contents, it's about the waves of change. And I can give you, you can find it, I'm sure,
I
in
can
the
find it.
contents
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I talk about the waves of change and how these different technologies are out here, like Google Plus. There was something
Yes.
called Google Plus at the time.
Yes. I
They
remember
were
that.
changing fast. Hootsuite. There were processes that would automate some of the same processes we're talking about now. And I
Right.
think that the comment that I made was, and I was reading it not too long ago, was that, man, things are changing so fast. Before you get accustomed to one set of tools, here you turn around,
Here's
there's
a new
another set
tool.
of tools you got to get used to. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that was 2012. This is maybe
14
14
years
years
later.
later, and it's changed going even faster.
Yeah.
So technology has always moved fast, and we've adjusted though. If you think about it, and I guess the
Hmm.
point I wanted to make about that is that
Hmm.
I don't care how fast it moves,
We
as
move with it.
humans, we have the ability to adapt and to catch up or to still maintain our ability to know what to do, how to do it, take advantage of it, and um, and not be engrossed by it or just consumed by it to the point where
Hmm.
we're not affected. I mean, so we've always had that ability, and I'm confident that we're going to have the same ability with AI. And
Yes.
even though and because it's moving at such a blinding pace, people are saying that, well, we're going to just be sitting around doing this and that. You know,
No.
I don't buy all that. I think we're going to be able
No.
to adapt to use it much like we've done in the past up to now. Like I said, one thing is different though, is this is coming with such force and with velocity, it's changing very fast, faster than we
Yes.
normally have seen.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so there are some, there are going to be some accommodations that'll have to be made for that.
That's right.
And the future is going to look very different, 10 years from now, even 5 years from now. But I believe that we will adapt in a way that we just don't become, you know,
Just
mindless,
sitting in a
sitting there
little.
like,
Have you ever seen the movie Wall-E by Disney?
I need to see that. No, I haven't seen it about the little
Yeah,
thing
the
that
little robot. Okay,
robot. Yeah.
so what you if you decide, I don't want to spoil too much if you want to actually see it, but it
No,
does
you can
have
tell me
some.
about it. I'm good.
Okay,
I'm
okay,
okay with
okay,
I'm okay
okay,
with revealing the
okay.
plot.
So
So,
so Wall-E is set in the future.
uh-huh.
Okay, obviously. It's on set on Earth, and Earth is now a barren wasteland. Wally's just going
Okay.
around cleaning up the junk on the Earth. And since you have a science fiction love, you're gonna really like Wally.
Okay.
So WALL-E Wally. So that's his job as a robot to go around clean up garbage. He doesn't know any better. So he falls in love with this little female robot, and they form this relationship together. But
Okay.
to what you don't believe, what happens is humanity is actually still alive. They're floating in space in these spaceships, and they're just kind of a lot of the humans are just sitting in pods and they're overweight and they don't want to move and all that stuff.
Hmm.
And so that's the counterpoint to what you're saying. And here's
Hmm.
why. Here's why I absolutely agree with it. And it was kind of revealed to me as you're talking. From the beginning, if we want to get spiritual and biblical, God created the earth. Genesis, God created humanity. God gave dominion over the earth to humanity. Now, if we want to go really granular on it, God gave dominion over AI to
Hmm.
humanity.
Hmm.
So you have to understand what makes us, will always make us different from AI is our spirit.
Absolutely.
God created our spirit, make him a, we are going to make man in our image by placing the spirit into humanity. That's
Hmm.
why I'm not worried.
Yep. Yep. Well, and that we know that that can is not something that can be duplicated.
No,
So
no.
breathing and spirit, you know.
The spirit cannot be duplicated. And
No,
it can
spirit
be
can,
copied, but it cannot
yeah,
be it
that's
is an
right. And
original it's an original
well,
creation of the Lord.
absolutely, man. You make a great point because there is that conversation going around. And
Yes.
that's another whole conversation. Let's definitely not get into a long
That's
conversation
we
about
have to
that.
have another conversation.
Man,
Get it. Yeah.
that's a long conversation, but there's a lot of conversation going on about that,
Yes.
particularly among the techie people who are, and I'm not saying it's bad, but among people who have followed these things, you
Yes.
know, and have come up
Yes.
with some great ideas and done some great things. And so but they're just a whole different conversation going on about, being sentient,
Yes.
and
Yes.
what they are and what they're going to control and what they'll do. So, but
Yeah.
let's save that for another day
Yes, we
because
we are definitely we definitely have to
man,
put that
that
aside
would, yeah,
because to what you were going to be closing on is the the fear of people forming a relationship with their AI. That's what
yes,
you were going to
okay,
close on.
yeah, I do. Thank you for bringing me back to that. I had a note over here, but I'm glad you brought me back to that. So, and that's an important point too, because we talk about fear, and there are some concerns that people should have because there's a question of over dependence on it.
Yep.
There's a question of falling in love with it and
Yep.
having relationships that are just totally not appropriate.
Right.
But because these things are so convincing
Yes.
that even older people, and we're concerned about the children,
Of
but
course.
everybody is susceptible to that because
Absolutely.
they can be so convincing, and you can put them in any type of voice.
Yep.
One thing that we did not talk about is how they are trained,
Hmm.
but these all these models are trained, and even you, when you use a model, you're training it either
Yes.
by just learning your patterns,
Yes.
or or that you are intentionally training
It
with certain information. You're training
tasks.
it with specific things that you do want to
Hmm.
train it with, and certainly
Hmm.
training. There's nothing wrong with training it,
Right.
but you can train it to emulate and do just about anything, and you can train it on people's personalities, traits,
That's right.
and things like that. So it will emulate it. You can, the video, you can create the images of it,
Hmm.
and it will look like a real person.
Yes.
And it will give you what you ask for, uh, and you can become emotionally attached to these things.
That's right. And
There's
because
actually
of
some,
the deep fake
yeah, the
side of it,
deep fakes
I
are,
completely forgot that, I looked at those as two separate things, but
mhm.
the way because of AI, it's actually one thing now.
It's a part of it. Yes, it
Yeah.
is. And
Yeah.
there's been some litigation about this,
Yes.
in California and some other places, but where there was a child, there was, I think, a child committed suicide as a result of one of these cases,
Hmm.
and the company was sued, and the litigation, I think, is still going on,
Mm.
some of it. So there are some real concerns about it, and as I mentioned earlier about social media, that we just kind of social media got turned loose on society without any guardrails at
Right.
all, and I think we still could have had a proliferation of growth as far as innovation is concerned, but some attention should have been paid to, how social media was released on society, so to speak.
Yeah,
And that's the other reason for really people becoming knowledgeable about uh, AI itself, so
right.
that you can contribute
That's
to
right.
the conversation because a person's voice matters.
That's
Your
absolutely
voice
always.
matters in terms of how this is all shaped. So you
Yes.
should not sit on the sidelines and don't learn
No.
about it because
No.
you're either going to yeah, there was a phrase and I don't think I can recall it exactly right, but either you're going to be guided by your own thoughts or the thoughts of somebody else on different matters
Yeah,
if you don't educate yourself. Now
that's right.
that said a little that summarizes what the thought I'm trying to make about it. But you need to have your own thoughts about different things so that you're not controlled by the thoughts of other people who
That's
you
right.
may ultimately not agree with.
That's
But
right.
I'm going to go back to my one original phrase is that don't release your judgment to any of this.
Right.
But you need information to be able to form your judgment about
That's
how
right.
you want to go, what you want to do, and how you feel about it. Don't just listen and take in information because social media is directed oftentimes to
To
pigeonhole you
cater
into
to
a
your,
certain, right, geared to you, to maybe pigeonhole you into a certain point of view. Certain people are selling things to you. I mean,
that's
just
right.
understand that, just having awareness that you're being sold. Uh,
Always.
Also, Grant Cardone has a book called Sold or Be Sold or something like that. I think it's called. I've read it. It's a good book.
Yeah,
He does a lot of stuff, a lot of great stuff. But it's sold or be sold. Like if you're either selling or you're being sold. It's kind of the
that's right.
point.
Always.
And that
Always.
is the
Yeah.
point about AI and social media and the influences. You're being sold something.
Yes.
And so you need to be the one that's doing the selling, or at least have an awareness that you are being sold something, and it's
Yes.
designed, literally designed to keep you um, focused on whatever it is that's been placed in front of you.
And I
Um,
think to use your word of judgment, I think a a word that can also be used alongside is identity. Don't
mhm.
sacrifice your
Oh man,
identity.
that's a good one.
Don't
Yeah,
sacrifice your own personal individual
absolutely.
identity that you have. I mean, you know, every single human being on earth has an individual identity, and it has been forged through experience, whether good or
Hmm.
bad. And so, what you have to remember with AI, it is always going to be, it is not your legs, it is not a part of your body. Because if you look at it from a logical standpoint, it was not born with you. So it's not a part of your body.
Right.
It is a walking stick. It is a physical walking stick. Treat it like that.
Hmm.
Because it is not, your identity is not the walking stick. You just happen to pick up the walking stick and you're using it. It's a
That's
part of your
right.
identity, but it is not your identity.
Absolutely, man. You're so right about that. I mean, it's you have your identity. You're unique. You have, you were made in the image of God, and you have gifts and talents that are uniquely yours,
Yes,
and you have gifts and talents that uniquely can contribute to this conversation that's going on.
always.
Uh, and but you want to cultivate that. You want to
Yes,
be, inquisitive about that. Be critical
yes.
thinkers. One of the points I want to make too is about your children.
Mm,
You should be having conversations with your children that cause them to be creative thinkers, to question things, to be
absolutely.
inquisitive because things are changing fast.
Yes,
Even jobs now are going to be
yes,
different. And if your
yes.
child knows how to think
That's right.
and how to react in certain
That's
situations,
right.
they're going to be much better off
Yes,
if they are doing some critical thinking and critical
that's right.
analysis, or just basically using their own judgment to
Yes,
make decisions. So if they want to
that's right.
engage in conversations, yeah, it's a good idea. Go ahead and talk to your child about things like
Yes.
that because the jobs that people are identifying now are not going to be the jobs that
No,
will be out there for them by the time
no.
they graduate from high
There.
school.
It's not going to be there.
I mean,
They're not.
it's
Yep.
going to look totally different. So you have to be able to uh, um, adapt to current circumstances. There was a young lady that I did interview on my podcast um, for that was she had graduated. She graduated. This was more recently when I was looking at retooling, getting it going back, starting it again. Um, I met her when through, or I met her through a friend
Mm,
also graduated from the university that graduated from. She ended up Ohio University, I think it was.
okay.
And she was the valedictorian
Oh
and,
wow, okay.
and had done an internship because she spoke on the at the commencement and so I watched it because I think I knew her before then. She was doing an internship right there with this company. That's what it was. And I asked her about her background. She was working for a company called I it was like iRobot. I think the name of the company is called iRobot because I
I
thought
think there
about the
is a
Will
company called
Smith movie.
iRobot out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's out of Atlanta. But anyway, she was doing an internship with them and she had written an article about her experience there on some topic about artificial intelligence. But I asked her about her background because I assumed that she was in computer science or some technology-based curriculum, but she was a philosophy major. She majored in philosophy and something else, but she had a desire to learn about technology, which she did, and so she did internships in places where she could learn about technology. And but she was smart enough to know that she needed to be able to think in whatever job or opportunity she was going at. And she had lots of
Hmm.
opportunities to work with
Hmm.
some profit organizations and nonprofit organizations. But she talked about when she took philosophy, she did critical thinking, and so she intentionally went out to try to make herself a well-rounded person who
That's
could
good.
adapt in just about any situation. That was the
That's
unique
good.
thing about her, and so that's what I would say to parents when it comes to talking about your children, talking to your children, is making certain that they're doing things that challenge them, but also that they where they can critically think about some things. There was a there is a guy that I did he invited me to do a podcast with him. No, that was actually the presentation. Let me see. His name was he calls himself the AI dad. He does a lot of great information on families, and
Hmm. Hmm.
I want to give that to you because I knew you would be interested in it, but certainly I
Of
want
course.
your listeners to be aware of it too. Let me find it. I think there may be a part of it. Let's see. Okay, here it is. Here it is. It's over here. Where is that? It is. Oh, there it is. His name is Warren Schumanner, and let's see. Okay, that's not the one, the page. I'll have to give it to, I'll send it to you. You can put, I
Okay.
don't know if you do show notes or anything like that, things like that.
I do. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I'll send it to you so you can have it. Use that. Let me see. I sure wanted to, I made a note to try to say, I want to be sure he's got his name is, okay, here it is. Warren Shidema. That's what it is. Warren Shidema. And he has a Facebook group called Superpowered AI Superpowered Parents. Yeah, AI
AI
powered super
super.
parent. Here it is. AI powered super parents. And he calls himself the AI dad. And I want to send you the link to he does marketing in this space too, but he's a really person of faith and uh, has has a good following of people, but his newsletter is really good. He's always giving advice about tech stuff, but he's going to always give advice about family and things that he does with his children. Um, and it's just a good newsletter. I wanted to refer you to him. for you
Okay, I
and
found his
you.
channel, so I'm subscribed to it.
Okay, great. Yeah, yeah. And I've got his a link to his Facebook page and his company. His company is called Matchless AI.
Hmm,
But but he talks about things of teaching your children too, and teaching adaptability and creativity to your children, and really basically making certain they have a technological literate, that they're technologically literate, about
hmm,
technology and critical thinking. So
hmm. Interesting.
so definitely check him out. That's one person I recommend. As I
Sure.
said, I've worked with him personally, done presentations with him personally, and done some for actually did one for him uh, on some other on topics of growing your business that that I just kind of teamed with because he's such a great guy that I just said, look, man, yeah, I'm happy to contribute in this way on that. But I want to make sure I gave you that, and that was
Sure.
one point that look, and I didn't think I would be looking all over the place for it because I said one link I want to recommend or one group person I want to recommend is this guy, Warren's uh, Schumittema, and I'm butchering his last name, but anyway,
It's
he's a great guy.
I'm guessing it's European.
Yeah, yeah, probably so, probably so. Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah. So, but anyway, so yeah, but that's kind of how I wanted to, sort of at least close out with mentioning how important it is to be concerned about your children. There are some countries now that have adopted policies that say that children under 16 can't access certain aspects of social media or
I
AI.
can I can see that
Hmm.
coming to here being
Yeah, yeah,
legislated,
that's yeah,
legalized.
that's
Yeah.
some countries have already adopted that.
Even at the state
And
level.
right, right. And then now, so just also so that people will know, there is no national policy for the U.S. I mean, states are individually looking at trying to adopt some policies, and the U.S. has looked at uh, Congress has looked at policies overall, but nothing has been adopted at this
Right.
point. There have been some executive orders issued, but Congress has not issued anything. Um, that is law
Yeah.
about different things.
And I
And
think
again,
that
that gets back
that
to my
needs to be.
yeah, that gets back to my point about just becoming educated about this thing. And
Yeah.
there are also there are lots of free sites out there. I mean,
Hmm. Hmm.
that you can access to. There's one young lady that she's really good to learn. She has a lot of free stuff. Her name is and I'm drawing a blank when I call her name. But her name is Sabrina Romanoff. That's what it is, Sabrina Romanoff. I'll send you a link to her
Okay.
thing. She has a really good newsletter too. She just
Okay.
does a lot of. She had a tech company that she sold for a lot of money, and so she just does a lot of free stuff now. She just and
And that goes
she's
back to the point of universal high income. If we can get people to have
mhm.
that type of income where they're able to be free,
Sure,
to
yeah,
freely think and be creative,
yeah, that's
it's
right,
gonna,
that's right.
it's the only, it will benefit humanity in the end.
It really will, and I'll say that the human factor is really going to rise to the top even more so, as we get to be uh, as we adapt more and more AI coming. I mean, your
I believe
creativity,
so.
yeah, those things create creativity, leadership in terms of how to think. What's your mental model for how you approach things. You
Right.
know, so your human creativity is still that part cannot be replaced. And so
Yes.
you're going to have to continue to press through to that. But you definitely need, like you do any other technology that's come out, to learn about this so that it can make you better. It can
That's
augment
right.
what you do, so that it just makes you a better thinker, it just makes you more of what you are and even better on
That's right.
that. So
And
so
so to kind of
and
tie all of this together as we're kind of wrapping it up, the hope for humanity, if you are worried about technology and it's encompassing consuming and conquering humanity, the one movie off the top of my head that I can put point of reference point to that should give humanity hope is The Matrix. Neo is
Oh
a
yeah.
human being. He's a
Hmm.
human being who,
Yep.
in essence, unites humans and the machines together.
Yep.
He
That's exactly right.
unites technology and humanity together.
Yeah, that's true. Because it was ultimately about good, prevailing, and they were, it was a really good trilogy. I guess there were three of
Hmm.
them. There may be more now, but there were
Yeah.
three that kind of all tied together. That once you got through, look, once you got through a lot of the violence in it, then you could see the themes going forward because
Is
the very first scene I ever saw in that movie was Neo being shot a bunch of times. It was like I just kind of kept it coming. I said, well, I want to see this from the beginning, but I'm not liking this. I'm
yeah,
coming into there. There's a scene where he just gets shot a bunch of
yeah.
times, and I'm saying I'm not sure I'm going to like this movie. I kind of was late getting there. And so it took me a little while to watch it, but then I eventually watched the whole thing and realized it was really, really a good movie
It's a deeply
on that.
philosophical movie.
Yeah.
If you just look at it from the lens of, I'm gonna look at the philosophy of it. I
Hmm.
think there was on the internet there was it was like a, I mean, I printed it out. It was so interesting to me. I can't remember how many pages it is, but it's a long, deep dive into the philosophy,
Okay.
the
Okay.
philosophical side of the Matrix and how it actually can tie into Christianity itself. And so
Yeah.
that's what I found really interesting about it. Is like
Okay.
there is so much more to the movie than most people understand.
Yeah.
The
It was a
trilogy
it was
itself.
it was a deep movie. It was a deep movie. It's kind of like and I'm gonna go back to the Terminator. I like the way the Terminator ended the first movie because it ended with almost like the beginning,
Right.
In the end, the lady sitting in the Jeep talking about a storm is coming.
Yes.
We kind of started with that. And it's like, oh, I like the way they looped this back around. You've gone,
Hmm.
they started here, and then you got the whole story and then came back. So there are, if you can, you can find, you know, people have different opinions about different movies, but it's kind of what do you want to get out of it? If you go looking
Right.
for something bad out of it, you'll probably get something bad out of it.
Right.
But there's a lot to learn and to help you understand concepts when you watch some of
Right.
these sci-fi movies, and you don't necessarily go to the worst side of it
No, you have to have
on
balance and
that.
be able to see both
Yeah, you
sides.
do have to have some balance about those things. So, but anyway, but yeah, man. Well, this has been good. I've enjoyed this conversation. I had no idea that we would just kind of be engrossed for a good while here, talking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
the various things that we talked about. So,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate the invite
And
to be.
well, it's not a problem at all. And so, is there anything that you'd like to promote or plug um at all?
Well, I do have a book that's coming out. It's called New Rules for AI, and it's not due out until I think maybe end of April and May, maybe. But you can sign up for that if you want to at least leave your information. And then I am planning on starting a newsletter, and
Okay.
I can sign you up for that as well once I have your information.
Sure.
But you can find that at newrulesforai.com.
Okay, cool.
And just kind of go in there, and it'll basically ask you. There's a button that says get started, and you just press that button,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll just open up a sheet where you can just fill in your name, uh,
Mm-hmm.
your email address, and then what are you, a student? Are you a entrepreneur, executive leader? And then
Mm-hmm.
the last question is, what are your goals, or what
Mm-hmm.
is your goal? It just says
Mm-hmm.
goal down there. If you want to write
Mm-hmm.
in that, I always like to know that because the reason I ask for that is I want to try to, if I give back to when I'm able to give back or put you in on my news list or engage with you, I want you to get whatever it is that I want you to reach the goal that you're aspiring to reach.
That's
So I
right.
always like to know what your goal is. And I guess on the goal side, I'll close with this. That's not necessarily techie because it was something that I've taught before, is that once you take that goal, you write that goal. You write, first of all, write it out, write the goal out, and then look at it. And then if you haven't written it, this way I'm going to suggest, then I suggest that you write it this way and that you write the goal as though it's already happened.
Ah,
It's all,
okay.
you write the goal as though it's already been done, like it's completed.
And you're
And
walking in
then
it.
that, and then you, that's right. And then you operate from that standpoint as though the goal has already been done. And then you think about how it would feel to accomplish that goal. How do you, what kind of feeling is that to really accomplish the goal that you set out? And that feeling that you have is a real feeling. I mean, that's you're going to feel good if you can get to a place where you write this goal and then you can feel what it feels like. You can experience what it feels like to accomplish the goal, then you're ahead of the game because you're already and you hold on to that feeling, and that feeling provides motivation for you to continue with the goal. The motivation may be, you wanted that goal to help your family or to get out of debt or to whatever reason that is, whatever motive behind it, you'll have that as well. You can write that as a part of it. But having felt it, once you write it out as though it's already happened, then you've got real motivation to kind of stay on the path to get to reach
That's
that goal.
good. That's really good. Well, Terry, we're gonna have a different conversation again, and I appreciate your time. Like I said, I knew that you didn't know how much it could turn into this, and then we've kind of hit a lot of the high points that you wanted to hit, and then we've got
Sure.
another conversation on the deeply spiritual side of the AI that we'll definitely just kind of just do another conversation on. But again, I just appreciate your time and being able to do this with you.
Well, well, thank you, man. I appreciate the invite, and always enjoy your company and talking with you, and wish you the best to your family, your
Thank you.
growing family. As I said, I'm just happy and excited to be here and able to share with you, and just keep up the good work that you're doing professionally and here with what you're
Thank you.
doing and with your family and with church and things like that. So thank you
Thank you.
for having me.
You're welcome. And we'll have it again soon.
Sounds good, man. Well,
All
just
right.
let me know. All right, you take
All right.
care.
Take
All right.
care.
All right. Thanks now. Bye bye.